Hey, chat, how you guys doing? That's a little weird. Wasn't anticipating that to start working like that, but okay. All right. Well, anyways, hello everyone. This is hmm, okay. So let me see if it fixes this. There we go. All right. Hey, chat. Why is this? Hi guys. This is meant to be a new camera. Give me 1 second here. I'm not sure why it's giving. All right, guys, we're back. And oh, there's the ceiling. Let's fix this. All right. Let's try to fix this. Come on. There we go. All right. Why are you not focusing? Come on, focus. Is my face blurry to you guys, or does it look okay? Huh. All right, well, we're going to try this anyway. This is what 2.0 got me. She actually got me a new camera. It's a bit of a different camera, so it does something really cool. All I do is click a button, and it shows the desk as is. I don't have to move a camera around or do anything. It's kind of cool about that. Now, I don't know why it's all smeary and blurry. That should be, I guess I'm going to have to fix that. But this is the neat thing. Literally just a click of a button, and it goes right back to this. So we're going to try. Let me know if you guys like it. Yeah, there's a big blurry smudge on the screen. Thank you. It's really washed out. Yeah, we're gonna have to mess with it, and I'll have to see what you guys. I understand. I'm trying to fix that. Let me see if fixing the color exposure does anything. Autofocus. There we go. I'm in focus now. There we go. Nope, too much. I think that's good. The keyboard looked normal. You're in soft focus. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to keep it. There we go. I think everything else. I'm in focus now. And then let's check. How does the keyboard look? Keyboard looks better, but I think that's just if I move the lights, is it better? Yeah, it's kind of better. Can see my hand. Yeah, I think it's working better. So we'll try this. We'll try this for now. Oh well. We'll get there eventually. It's not as washed out now. Yeah, I messed with it just a little bit. We got the Elizabeth Taylor filter. Okay, well. Zelensky has a 1,000-inch 4K, 40K TV. Yeah. It's actually not it's my shirt that was sitting up here on the edge of the table. But anyways, because when you switch, I am not there. So there you go. Anyway, we're just going to go back to this. I don't think I like the RTX on Sean. Yeah. So Camera's having trouble defining your color. Yeah, I've gone off the spectrum. Well, that's a normal thing there. That's a normal thing, going off spectrum. But anyway, guys, let's keep going. Anyways, welcome, guys. We got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about tonight. Tonight is the issue with the Fulton County Jail. Now, you guys know from the Young Thug saga, the issues at the Fulton County Jail are pretty bad. We've heard this routinely. In fact, we saw this. More than one guy was stabbed and attacked in the jail. Shannon Stillwell actually spent a month. The trial was on hold for about a month because one of the guys in the trial was stabbed in the jail and attacked by another gang member. This is not an uncommon thing there. And people, and we've talked about this before, not only just Fulton County, but the metro Atlanta area. Is this better, chat? I was trying to work on my glasses. Okay. So anyway, we've heard the issues with the YSL case, everybody there. But we also heard the stories of like the guy who spent 10 years waiting for his murder trial to happen. Maurice Jimerson, the guy was waiting 10 years for a murder case to finally go to trial. And then when it went to trial, he got a hung jury. And then they let him plea out to a misdemeanor. People have sat in jail in Atlanta for months and, for years and years and years on end. In jail. Yes, John Doe. Yes, in jail. He spent 10 years in jail in one of the nearby counties waiting to have his trial. So, did someone die in Fulton County waiting for the trial to start? Multiple people have. Multiple people have suffered from that issue. Multiple people have suffered on that issue. So, it's not the only time that's ever happened. It's happened a lot. So, there have been a lot of issues, and the YSL trial highlighted them, brought them to public attention. But in the meantime, the DOJ, and as much as, we don't like the DOJ and things they do, there's sometimes where they do something right. They do a good thing. And also, hold on one second. We've been trying to figure out, what's going on there? Well, this time it does sound like there was a lot going on there. And, is every jail like this? No, but we also just saw the footage out of New York State where the guy was at the prison in New York State and the guards beat him to fucking death, and they had it on camera and they didn't think to turn their cameras off. And they beat the guy to death while he was handcuffed. So it is a common issue. It's a thing that happens. And wasn't Fulton County on the 60 Days In show? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the number of people, and that's the other thing online, Red. There are a ton of people there who haven't been indicted yet. They had some sort of municipal court, like they had a felony case. They got a bond set. They can't make their bond, and they're sitting. And it takes forever. And part of that's because people like Fannie Willis run that office, and it's horribly corrupt and inefficient. So, oh yes, my shirt is called Blue Ice. So yeah, it might be Trump focusing. It might be focusing on Trump, but I reset the focus, so I think we're okay. Ag saying, what? That's seriously fucked. Yeah, no, it's a big problem. The Fulton County Jail is a fucking disaster in the Atlanta system. I'm telling you guys, there's some attorneys I follow on Twitter. Andrew Fleischman's one of them. What's the guy? Who's on Court TV? Who's got the weird little glasses? I follow him on there, and there's a couple other ones in the Atlanta area, and you will hear them talk about how fucked up the court system is in Atlanta, Georgia, and how bad it is in Georgia in general, but in the greater Atlanta area, it's fucking awful. It's fucking awful. And Trump once saying it's blacks being blacks. Nope, it's been this way forever. Atlanta wasn't just corrupt when it was the black folk running it. Atlanta's been corrupt since the white folk running it. I mean, go all the way back to the burning of Atlanta. The Confederates set Atlanta on fire when they saw Sherman coming. Like, Sherman didn't actually burn Atlanta. He did a lot of other things, but Atlanta got torched by the Confederates. So, yeah, Georgia's got a lot of issues. Georgia has a lot of issues. There you go, Josh Schiffer, yes. And then GSU Grinding is another attorney, good one to follow. A lot of good attorneys down there. Job Well Done says, how is the jail? I don't know. But we're going to we are going to move on to actually reading the report. And the DOJ released a report, and it's insane what happened to people there. It's insane what people are being forced to put up with there. Yamal says, as long as the general population is livable, let the rest of the jail be a shit show. I get news for you. The entire fucking jail's a shit show. General pop isn't livable. What was happening? Like, we're going to go through stuff that's happening in general population. The entire jail is a disaster. Jail shouldn't be good. But the idea is that innocent people might be attacked and beat and treated like shit. Well, that's not right either. Everybody there is presumed innocent. So, no, the entire jail is fucked. The entire jail is fucked. The entire jail is fucked. So anyway, the DOJ released a report back at the end of the month in November, and hadn't had a chance to get to it yet. But yeah, here's this thing. It's 105 pages, and we're gonna skip around through it, but we're gonna cover some basic stuff here. All right, guys. So it's the DOJ, the Civil Rights Division, and they cover all kinds of stuff here. This is a common thing, and here's it's just, it all starts off. It keeps going and going and going and going. We're just gonna get to it, guys. We're gonna get to all of this. We're gonna get to all this. All right. So the first thing, it's September 2022. LaShawn Thompson died alone in the mental health unit of the Fulton County Jail. Ugh. Come on, highlighter, work with me here. He had a history of mental illness and they call it unhoused, but he was homeless. He had spit on a Georgia Tech police officer. Okay, great. You got to go to jail for that. You're going to go to jail for that. 3 months after his arrest, he was slumped over in his toilet, and his body was malnourished and infested with an enormous presence of body lice. I mean, it's one thing, yes, if he had killed himself because he's crazy, but this guy died apparently from exposure and mistreatment. At some level, the jail has to be able to take care of it. But they talked about months before, there was another death in the mental health unit. Another homeless guy was arrested after breaking into a building, and they say on the mental health unit, he stopped taking his meds and his health declined. He was found unresponsive following a seizure and transported to a hospital, but never recovered. And they talked about this. 2 more people died in the jail's mental health unit in the weeks following the first guy. Both had serious mental health issues. Both were killed by their cellmates, and both were found with their feet bound. One of them was found wrapped in bedding like a mummy. And it says altogether these, and the fact they're black is an issue, but regardless, 4 people are getting murdered in the mental health unit. It's not good. And they have serious mental health needs in the jail's mental health unit in under a year. That's not good. So in July 2023, they opened up their investigation. Within weeks of opening their investigation, 6 more people had died at the jail, regardless of they're black or not. And they're making it about black. But it does, that's who's in the jail. If it was a jail full of white people, white people would be dying there. One person was found after his cellmate strangling him, and days later, within 24 hours, 5 units in the jail saw violent assaults, and at least 7 people were stabbed. 1 person was killed. It's a fucking insane asylum there, guys. And they believe that the Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office violate the constitutional and statutory rights of people incarcerated. They fail to adequately protect jailed people from the risk of violence. And they do. They have an obligation. If they're going to arrest you, they should take care of you. They can't just leave you to the wolves. Because all it takes, some of you might say, fuck it. Well, you accidentally get arrested or you get wrongly charged. Oh, well, fuck it. I guess that's what happens to you. You won't be singing that tune. So what do they also know? The deputies use force without justification. Apparently, they use a lot of tasers. The living conditions do not meet basic constitutional standards. The jail is in a state of serious disrepair. There's standing water, exposed wires, bug infestations. It's dangerous and unsanitary. And yes, jail shouldn't be fun, but you shouldn't be worried about getting fucking dysentery at jail. Unsanitary meals. Like, that's pretty fucked up. The medical care and mental health care don't meet standards. They don't monitor the people they put in isolation. Also, and this is something you didn't realize, guys, Georgia's one of the only 4 states where the juvenile system ends at 16. There are 17-year-olds at the jail, and I think that's interesting. So there's 17-year-olds there, and they're minors. They've been subjected to violent force. And they, if they're wanting to arrest these people, but then they don't want to provide them. If you want to arrest them, you have to take care of them. And you have to educate them. And juveniles are entitled to be educated. And then they won't care for them. It's like, well, then maybe we shouldn't fucking arrest everybody. I mean, like, that's another way around this. That's another way around this. Matthew Felty says, "Oh no, I'm gray." What's up with the shirt? It's a nice color, and it just doesn't like the camera. So Bob Smith says crazy people refuse to get washed, get infections. Who cares? It's not just them. Like, you notice they get sick, they make you sick. The entire jail's unsanitary. Like, you're in jail and a guy's going to tunnel through the wall of the jail and stab you and the guards don't stop it. Like, at some point, like, I get it. You just want to say, like, fuck them, they're in jail, but it shouldn't be a gladiator academy. It shouldn't be Lord of the Flies. If we're doing that, then we're no fucking better than they are. And they say none of the problems are new. They've been going on forever. In April 2024, somebody died of being stabbed 20 times. Less than a week later, somebody else was found dead in their cell. And they just talk about all the stuff that's happened here. Fulton County and they just some basic information. It's the largest county in Georgia, and it's just over 10% of Georgia's total population. It includes most of Hotlanta. And the jail is the jail for Fulton County. The entity responsible is the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. And the sheriff is Sheriff Patrick Labatt. Sheriff Labatt took over in 2021. The Board of County Commissioners is the governing body for Fulton County. And they say through the Board of Commissioners, they provide funding for the jail and they maintain the jail facilities. The county sets the funding levels for the sheriff's office, but the sheriff is an independent elected official whose authority is defined in the Georgia Constitution. Yes. So that's just basically kind of like government stuff here. There are 4 buildings there, the main jail and 3 annex facilities. Collectively, it's the Fulton County Jail. The jail population is nearly all people with pending charges. In July 2024, only 2% of the population was serving a sentence. Thus, nearly all of the people held in the jail are not there as a result of being found guilty of a crime. So that's the other thing, Bob. Like, yeah, okay, fuck them, but they haven't been found guilty of a crime yet. So, yeah. People spend long periods detained in the jail. According to analysis, nearly 1/4 of the population has been held a year or more. They did our own analysis of the jail's population, and the average length of stay was 279 days. They identified 245 people who had been in custody for 2 years or more. Those include the YSL guys. 14 people had been in the jail for over 5 years, and one who had been there for more than a decade. These are more consistent with time spent in prisons than in a jail. Many people in the jail have repeat stays. In June of 2023, 41% of the bookings in 1 month had one or more prior bookings. And they say black people are overrepresented in the jails compared to the population. According to the jail census in 2024, 91% of the people in the jail are black, compared to just 45% of the Fulton County population. See, I thought Fulton County was a predominantly black county. I thought it was predominantly black. And everybody like J-Rock had run away to the suburbs. 9% of the jail are white, and less than 1% are Hispanic, Latino, Asian American. They say in comparison, the population of Fulton County is 38% white, 8% Hispanic, and 8% Asian. Okay, there we go. That makes a little more sense than what we're looking at and why they have what they have. Defense Diaries. Bob Mata, how you doing, Bob? It says, New Year's Eve, why you working? Well, it's not New Year's Eve yet. I mean, but yes, on New Year's Eve, I do have court. So, no, but this is one I wanted to get to, and I hadn't had the chance yet. And I said I was going to do it this week, and then seeing the guy at the jail get beat to death kind of really motivated me to want to get this one done. But hope you're doing well, Bob. Hope you're doing well. Guys, Bob and his wife, Allie, over on the Defense Diaries podcast. They do great stuff. And Bob, had been involved in the Richard Allen case, was down there through the trial, has done a lot. And we need to get together, Bob. I know the New Year's coming up, but we need to do something here. We need to work on that. I gotta DM you. I'm gonna DM you. But guys, Bob does great stuff. So does his wife. So catch him out there if you can. And then Keopathic says the majority minority. Yeah. And J-Rock says that was uncalled for. What? What part was uncalled for, J-Rock? That you ran away? You fled? White flight? It's okay. It's okay. Oh, Bob says it's a 6-day holiday as far as I'm concerned. Well, this is fun. This doesn't count as work for me. I enjoy this. It's a what? It's a what? Yes, it's Bermuda Triangle Week. Well, that's a thing. Like, there's not a lot of court stuff, but yeah, this is still things there. Just Me says, I'm a 1984. Am I older than you? Yes, you are. I'm a 1985 model. Late 1985 model. Brad says, I'm doing New Year's Eve court. Did Sean subpoena someone on New Year's Eve? No, it's just the way things got set. I've got, hold on here. What do I have? I've got, well, what's at least set on the calendar is, what do I got? I got, well, actually, I may not have to do the first thing because I may not be getting, well, the person hasn't retained me yet, but they're still trying to, for probation violation. Then I've got a children's services case, and that's just because they have to set up within time limits. And I got to go see, I got something else to take care of in the afternoon. So got a couple of things, but it's how shit goes. So. Retaining counsel for a probation violation? Yeah, why not? Some people want to. They have every right to. You may not qualify for appointed counsel if you make too much. So, yeah. So. All right. Anyway, guys, significant portion of the jail's population has an identified mental illness. Yeah, but we all do at some level. Okay, but yes, they're arguing 380 people booked into the jail were placed on the jail's mental health caseload. So 20% of bookings that month. And the jail's mental health provider has also identified 272 people who had a serious mental illness. And there's been a lot of challenges there. And they say one of the other issues here, and they bring this up, Georgia ends when the system jurisdiction ends at 16. So all 17-year-olds, regardless of offense, are charged as adults. All of the 17-year-olds have been charged as adults. The jail houses 17-year-olds who, because of the nature of their charge or a court order, were charged as adults at 16 or younger. So that's still weird. That's still weird. Regardless of all that, the average stay for people who enter the jail at 17 is 392 days, guys. 392 freaking days. At some point, like, well, when are they going to get sorted out? And yes, there's a ballooning population and overcrowding. Well, maybe we shouldn't be arresting as many people as we should. In 2022, the sheriff reported that there were 366 people sleeping in temporary beds on the floor of the jail. The sheriff advised the total population in the jail was about to reach 3,400, an increase of over 600 from the year before. And the commissioners described the overcrowding in the jail as inhumane. Well, and that's true, though. If you guys have never seen it, like the little plastic beds they have stackable, kind of like contoured beds. They look like dog beds, basically. And I've seen these before in other jails. For example, the Lucas County Jail in Toledo, Ohio. It's been under federal court supervision for nearly 40 some years now. It's been overcrowded for over 40 years, and they have stacks of beds that they keep in the holding cells, and that's where they put the overflow of people. And they all sleep on the floor, and then in the morning they stack them all up to have room to sit around again. So jail overcrowding is not an issue, but here's the thing. You make a bigger jail, guess what they do? It gets filled up. So just maybe we shouldn't be jailing as many people. Maybe a lot of more people should be out on bond. And this is something I said before, guys, where you deal with this. The idea of, like, in Indiana, like, oh my gosh, they're running loose in the streets. We can't have cash bond. We have to have cashless bond. We probably should. A lot of people should be out. I mean, if they're truly dangerous, fine, keep them in. But in the meantime, you overcrowd people. It gets unsanitary, disease, sickness, violence. Well, there's a way to fix that. So they say an attempt to address the overcrowding, the county sought to speed up cases in the criminal courts. And they say the sheriff's office created its own program, the inmate advocacy unit, to identify people in the jail and need their cases expedited or who could be appropriately released. And they say, according to the sheriff, as of 2023, they got 78 people released, which sounds like they're practicing law without a license, but oh well. There's also they transferred other people to many other counties at significant cost as 2024. They were housing 267 people in other counties and 380 people at the Atlanta City Detention Center, pursuant to a lease with the city of Atlanta. And this isn't uncommon. Counties will buy beds from other counties. County A might have a smaller population, and they've done things to reduce their jail population. So County B says, hey, we'll pay you to use your bed space. And that does happen. And they do say over the past year, the population has declined. In 2024, the main jail population was 1,822 and was 1,850. And it says both a decline from 1,000 people from the year before. And they say the main jail's population declined in part because housing units were uninhabitable. In August of 2024, a presentation to the Board of Commissioners showed that 630 beds of the main jail were offline. 216 beds had sewage backups, 260 beds were undergoing repair, and 198 beds were unavailable due to fire restoration or were awaiting parts for repair of a critical safety feature. So, maybe the idea that they're ineffective and they can't run it, okay, great. That's a way to reduce things, but that's not the best way to get what you want fixed. That's a way, but is it the best way? Do you know the way? I don't think that's the best way. I don't think that's the best way here, chat. Why is this? I'll worry about that later. So the jail's in a crisis, and they talk about this. The jail is completely in a disaster. But let's get to the actual issues here. So if you guys see in the thumbnail, the Fulton County Jail, that's the main jail. And if you guys notice, it's the same jail they kind of model things after in the one Resident Evil movie. So, so the main jail was built in 1989. It was originally designed to house 1,100 people in single-person cells. They began double selling people almost immediately after its opening, and now has 2,200 beds. So what can they do there? They found that the most the main jail could accommodate is 1,800 people. In July of 2023, there were 2,600 people in the facility, but by mid-August, with the multiple housing areas offline, there were only 1,500, just about 1,600. They talk about the main jail as the central booking area for the county. It has an intake unit and the medical unit with the medical and psychiatric observations. The main jail consists of a 3-story low-rise structure joined to an elevator tower. Provides access to 2 housing towers. And they talk about this. The North Tower has 7 floors, and the South Tower has 6. Each housing unit has 8 zones arranged in a horseshoe around an elevated control tower. This is a very standard, this is the old school way of designing prisons and jails, chat, is you built them upwards and you had like the pods and spokes and all of that. Nowadays, if you notice, and this is why you see like more modern prisons, everything's built on one level and spread out. And that's to eliminate the issues of, riots and fires and the other issues. You can control and move around and outside of a 1-floor building. One that's 6, 7 stories tall, you can't do anything about it. So, is this thing, hold on here. Let me see here, chat. Sorry, this camera is... No, I don't want auto tracking. There we go. There we go. All right. So the cell's open into a day room with tables bolted to the floor, phones, and a kiosk for commissary and stuff, and a shower's on each tier. So they talk about they have other places here. They have an annex in Marietta, the main jail in Marietta Boulevard. It's got 80 beds. They've got the North Annex. It's 25 miles north of the main jail in Alpharetta. It has 50 beds. Then there's the South Annex. It's 20 miles south of the main jail. It has 285 beds. And this is the one where if you guys ever watched 60 Days In, this is the one they had there. It's where all the girls lived. So they talk about the civil rights identifications, violations identified. Protection from harm. And yes, and there are multiple Supreme Court cases about this, chat. Corrections officers have a duty to protect prisoners from violence at the hands of other prisoners. And jail officials violate the 8th and 14th Amendments, the rights of those in their custody when they are deliberately indifferent to an excessive risk of violence. Occasional social isolated attacks on one another may not be cruel, but confinement in a prison where violence and terror reign is actionable. So, and you have to classify and separate violent from nonviolent people. That could be deliberate indifference. Failure to adequately supervise and monitor can be deliberate indifference. Failure to provide sufficient staffing, confiscating weapons and things you find, and failing to investigate misconduct can also constitute deliberate indifference. They talk about, the jail exposes incarcerated people to extreme violence and the risk of serious harm. And they say in less than 24 hours in August, at least 7 people were stabbed and 1 was killed at the jail. The violence spanned 5 units and 3 floors. They continuously do this. They don't do anything. And they say from the present, 6 people have died in this jail. And that's a lot of people for a jail. Like in prisons, there might be more, but in a jail, it's quite a bit. There's a lot of people who have died. A lot of people have died. They do bring up a lot of the people who are homicide victims had more serious mental illnesses. They all had been incarcerated for months or years. It wasn't there. The average length of stay was 253 days. And the longest guy had been there 654 days in jail. And half of those were sharpened weapons. I mean, to be fair, that's a good portion of them. But 654 days in jail, chat, think about that. You know, they talk about shanks. Okay, we all know what shanks are, little stabbies. So in 2023, there were 1,000 assaults on incarcerated people and 314 stabbings at the jail. In 2023, chat, 300 stabbings. That's a lot of people getting done up. That's a lot of people getting booked. That's a lot of homies putting in work. And they say in 2023, the rate of stabbings was 1.5 times the rate of stabbings in New York City jails, and more than 27 times the rate of all incidents involving an edged weapon in Miami-Dade County jails. The jail has as many stabbings in a single month as Miami-Dade County, who housed 1.5 times more people, had all year. Sounds like they've got to get their rates up in Miami. It's like, you know, they must, well, that's what they don't, when Tony Montana's not there anymore. And he's like, Vanguard! He just starts stabbing people. Florida man can't compete. I know. Florida, Georgia line for sure. For sure. The Florida, Georgia line, chat. They can't hang in Florida. La Floride. You know, that's Matt can't hang there. Why does this thing keep moving? This damn camera is frustrating at times. Yeah, there we go. It was like cutting my head off. I'm trying to keep my head like in the center. And it doesn't want to do that. There we go. There we go. So let's keep this one there. Just don't go to jail. That doesn't help when the police arrest you. Like, that's, you committed a crime. Says who? The police. Okay. Then what? What do you do then? Like, you know, that's such a simple thing. That's like saying don't be poor. Or, you know, like, the police do wrongly arrest people. So what's your answer when that happens, I guess, is my issue. Like, that's the other issue. Like, how many of those people got illegally thrown in the jail, or how many of those people have been fucked with? DeMonte Kendrick didn't do anything wrong. He was not guilty of all those crimes, yet they threw him in jail for 2 years. Young Thug, they dismissed the murder and all the other bullshit charges against him. Like, literally, don't go to jail. Well, there you go. Like, that's, what do you do when you didn't do anything wrong? Is the problem. There's nothing there. Internet person said they do wrongly arrest people, but most of them for a good reason. Stay out of trouble. Yes, but you shouldn't be, as DF88 says, you shouldn't be going to the Rapeville County Jail. Like, okay, fine, you're in jail. You shouldn't have to worry about getting stabbed and raped and, you know, beaten to death before you have a trial. Like, we do have an obligation. If we're going to incarcerate people, you should care for them. You should care for them. So, that's the problem here. Anyways, yes, here are all the stabbings. Rate of stabbings per 100,000 people. We have a winner, chat. Dub. We got the loser. And we got the loser. The L's. But they talk about all the violent incidents in the population of the jail. So at times, like, there are some very crazy things there. This just goes on and on and on, chat. They talk about some of their basic things here, but we're going to skip into where they actually get into the real descriptions of what's going on here. So, hold on here. Where is... Oh, this is also another issue here. They talk about, you know, staffing levels. They have authorized amounts of COs, and then they only have so many. And as of June of this year, they're like 30 or 40 COs short. Well, that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem when you don't have the right number of people. And the recommended staffing level is 562. They aren't able to take care of things there, and they have poor maintenance and pervasive contraband there. They don't maintain things, but also there's a large amount of contraband which gets in through the jail staff, guys. We know that's how things get in. The jail staff are how drugs and weapons get into a jail. There are problems here. They say in high-risk housing areas, none of the pipe chase doors close and lock because locks have been vandalized and not repaired. As a result, people can access pipes, controls, and pipe fittings, which they can make into weapons. So they can go into like the piping and they can rip that out, make weapons out of it. There's all kinds of shit here. Like they have to protect you. So and here's what they do. I mean, like they rip stuff out. They say in one maximum security zone, almost every pipe chase door could not lock, and large pieces of metal easily made into weapons were lying on the floor. The officers escorting us appeared unfazed by the situation. And that's because they're not getting attacked by it. When they identified a significant piece of metal pipe found in a pipe chase, the officer would drop it on the floor of the day room where incarcerated people could easily access it, and they would get it later. But like, yeah, there's pipes laying on the ground. Like, imagine getting hit with some of this shit. It would hurt. It would hurt. Yeah, it's a shank factory. It's a pickup, make your own shanks, chat. So they call it pipe chase, and it's basically like one of the maintenance closets, and you guys can tell that. So, and they confiscated 2,100 sharpened weapons in 2023 and 1,300 weapons in 2022. In January of 2024, they confiscated 139 shanks. And they say, for example, in the Miami-Dade County jails with the population of 4,600, they only found 346 weapons in 2023. That's a massive amount. They went from meh to meh. And guys, here's a lot of shanks. Sometimes a shank is just a sharpened piece. Sometimes it's something with an edge, but a lot of times it's just a sharpened piece. And I've told you before, remember, guys, you can make a shank out of like garbage bags. Remember, I told you the guy took a pencil and had taken garbage bags and he had ripped the garbage bag apart and had laid it on the heater and he kind of drew it down into like a nice big plastic shank. So you can do that. I mean, like prisoners are creative with their free time. You can bust pieces off all this and make shanks out of all of that. Like everything in jail is a weapon. Everything in jail is a weapon. There are multiple areas of broken lights. Some housing units have no working lights at all. One housing unit had all the switch plates in the 5 cells and broken fixtures of wires exposed. Like, think about it. Kids would not be allowed to live in homes with wires and shit sticking out. There were so many problems. Poor lighting is a risk of violence. Yeah, and some people basically live in darkness and live in the hole. There are so many problems here. There were 7 power. They identified several power outages at the jail. There was no emergency lighting, which if I was a guard, I'd be concerned about that stuff. But the electrical and HVAC systems didn't work for 6 days. That would be rough. That'd be rough. So, but yeah, anyways, they talk about like March 2023, they found over 200 weapons. And the sheriff even acknowledged they are literally crafting shanks out of the walls of the facility. And we're going to talk about how bad the jail's falling apart. But here's some of the problems. Funding is the biggest issue ultimately. The board of commissioners wouldn't vote to build a new jail. Well, the problem it's not just money, but you have to find a space for a new jail. And remember what I said, guys. The modern corrections theory is you build out, you don't build up. Building up is dangerous. If you build out, it's more controllable. Well, that requires a lot of land, and you have to find hundreds of acres to do this at. And that's not easy to find in this day and age. So, in 2024, though, they did approve a measure to assess the jail for current renovations. They say before the repair blitz, there was no effort to fix the jail. It's likely to remain a state of disrepair that fosters violence. And they say 6 weeks after the repairs were completed, it had already been seriously damaged. Light switches were broken and an electrical plate was missing from the wall. And they should be able to check on that, but they don't. They say door locks throughout the jail don't work. They say a deputy reported that only 5 out of 100 doors on a unit were working. And they said there are 732 broken door locks in the jail and still need to repair 653 of them. You know, they're lucky there hasn't been a fucking jail riot or an insurrection at the jail. I mean, think about that, chat. Like, how have the guys in jail not figured out the doors don't work? They're lucky because it's, malfunctioning doors are a major security failure. And they say in August 23, multiple people left their housing unit with sharpened weapons, and they opened the door to the zone by wedging a dustpan in the door and manipulating the lock to slide the door open. On certain floors, you could trigger the emergency release and pop open all the doors on a tier at once, which, if you want to go settle a score with somebody on your tier, that's a great way to do it. So, and they say that they said 2 separate stabbings occurred after incarcerated people manipulated the overrides to open doors and attack other people. And that's the thing. You want to go stab somebody? Great, I'll pop all the doors. Now you can't hide. And they talk about in July 2023, there was an attack, and the sergeant wrote in his report, this happened in a lockdown zone with sliding cell doors the inmates could open and close at will by manipulating the manual override mechanism that controls the cell doors in the zone. This is a very well documented issue that has been going on for months. And they say, due to the security breach, inmates are no longer protected from other inmates. Yeah, that's not good. They talk about how this situation had gone from bad to worse, and the locks did not work. And one of the jail deputies said all the doors in the zone are broken with inoperable manual release boxes. Nobody should be secured here because no one can be secured behind a locked and operable door. The jail could provide secure doors and keep locks in good repair. The failure to do so is the product of inattention. The jail's contracted maintenance worker reported that the locks work if not vandalized. He described the locks as being jammed, torn, broken up, and unable to be opened because materials were stuffed in the mechanisms. Yeah, and that comes down to the jails keeping the guys away from the doors. And like, here's the big one, chat. Here's the big one. They're tunneling through the walls to attack each other. Like, it's one thing, okay, yeah, you're a jail, okay, but you're minding your own business, and guys are literally digging through the wall of the jail. Like, they Shawshank their way through the jail to come fucking kill you. Like, they created spider holes. Like, it's like those pictures you've seen of, like, Fallujah, where the Al-Qaeda guys are running from house to house, and you cut holes in the walls so you can move internally through a building. They literally did this. No, and guys, these are not Joe Neerman's type of tunnelers, chat. These are not Joe's type of tunnelers. Yes, it sounds barbaric, it does. J-Dubs is right. Yeah, this gangster's getting it. Yeah, well, this is what it's like when you're about this is when you're all about that action, boss. When you're all about that action, this is what you do. And yeah, it's like Kendrick Lamar. It's like the hood gonna love it. Well, I respect it, but this is just insane. But yes, they have created large holes in the walls which they can travel and cause harm. And the sheriff has acknowledged this happens. So in January of 2024, officers reported a hole in the shower of 6 South. Zone 600 leading into the pipe chase is Zone 500. Days later, a floor officer in Zone 500 noticed 2 people inside the pipe chase and reported a big hole in the wall leading to the other shower. It's concerning this hole had not been repaired and that the floor officer was unaware of the hole's existence, even though staff had already discovered it. Well, it's more concerning that they kept people in that area. Like, that's like if you're at the prison, like you're at a jail and you find there's a big hole in the fence, you're like, we'll worry about it later. Why aren't you keeping people away from that? Like, nope, nobody's allowed in the shower. We're kicking out of the pod. Everybody's getting relocated. No, they're just like, there's a hole there. And then the other guy's like, they didn't tell anybody else on the shift. There's a hole in the cells. There's a hole there. Okay, Travion Washington's right. The hole was in the wall. Why would the floor officer know about it? Forgive me. Yes, his job is the floor. Their job is the walls. Yes, it's very, very much the government worker. Not my job. I see a hole in my. It's just to fill it. Oh no. This is like an untested video game. Kind of. So they talk about in September 2023, one zone was found to be severely compromised when officers found that multiple cells had holes leading to the pipe chase door that had been forced open and did not lock, allowing people to exit their cells at will. This is like, and this part here is like the Escape from Alcatraz shit, like Clint Eastwood and the Anglin brothers, when they were like, they could dig. If you guys haven't seen the movie, Clarence Anglin, the Anglin brothers, and who's the guy Clint Eastwood plays? Robert Morris. They broke out of Alcatraz, but it took them weeks to do it. So they first tunneled out of their cells and they made fake walls that would cover up the hole. And then at night, they would climb up to the roof of their cell block and they actually made a drill and they drilled out the ventilation grates, the rivets on them. But it took them weeks and weeks and weeks to do it. So this idea that they can dig through their wall and go along the back way, very much a Frank Morris, yes. What this jail wasn't the Silent Hill type thing. No. Officers determined that incarcerated people were chiseling through the concrete to make these holes, yes. And in May, an assailant dug a hole through a shower wall to enter an incarcerated person's housing zone and stab him. They say later in the month, a fight broke out between people in 2 different zones. An incarcerated person told officers he was lying on his bed when the assailant came through a hole near the toilet via the pipes and stabbed him. Now, that part is funny, okay? While some of this is horrifying, he's like, I was just laying in bed and some guy came out of my toilet and attacked me. It's like... I mean, how does that one work? Yeah. Skibidi stabbing. Yes, it's prison break in real life. Why are the cats... They literally have brand new litter, and the one cat's just pawing at the edge of the litter box like, maybe I'll dig a hole through it. So, they said that, and they also observed, an officer observed that another person had made a massive hole in the wall of his cell, leaning into the pipes from a neighboring cell. Later, that same person was on another zone when he climbed from a hole in his cell, through the pipe chase and into the day room where he chased another person about the zone. So he went from pod A to pod B. That's got to be a funny roll call. Where are you from? Oh, I'm over in pod A. And the guy's like, this is pod B. You're like, I know. Oh. Blade says every time Every time Sean streams, I feel grateful that I have impulse control. Yeah, well, yeah. So when they talk about the availability of metal pieces about the facility, yeah, but that's kind of like you're gonna have metal everywhere, so that's nothing you could do except having guards available to check for contraband. But yeah, so the regular and thorough inspections, you would not be able to create the holes. There's drug use, and yes, a lot of drugs are trafficked into the jail, as is the case in most jails. In 2024, over 400 pills of ecstasy were found with a bunch of weed, Percocet pills, 10 cell phones, and drug paraphernalia, including a digital scale. And they say that when the DOJ people were there, staff informed us the incarcerated person we were interviewing was suspected of being high on fentanyl. That's great. Drug use in jail includes the use of strips. This is the hot thing. This is the thing. It's the easiest way to get high. You get pieces of paper soaked in chemicals and an unknown substance, and then dried and smoked. And that's a very I know clients who do this. They smoke strips. Every once in a while, I've had clients where they reek, and I'm like, "The fuck did you do?" He's like, "Oh man, I had a strip before I came in here," and I'm like, "Ooh, smells bad. It's not good." It's called Happy Cards. Kitty says, "How did you not know we have cats?" I don't know. But we do. We have 2 cats, Dose cats. And early on, the one cat, the Tortie, would come up on up on the desk and would her tail be flipping around on camera. So if you go back and watch the Theodore Edgecombe trial, you'll see her. But she stayed away. She's kind of stayed away for the most part. But yes, we have 2 kitties. And Clyde chases them around sometimes. Say one guy said that strips bring chaos to the units, likening the ensuing violence to war. And they said they were there for the inspections, and the odor from people smoking filled the air. Security and medical staff reported getting contact highs from breathing the air in the jail. Well, I still don't believe in contact highs. I think that's because staff is using drugs. But hey, if that's what's being believed, that's what's being believed. And they say, we observed burnt and rolled papers left on the floor of the jail on more than one occasion, still burning during our inspections. It's prescription fentanyl. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is the dog channel. No cats allowed. Well, and drugs play a clear role in violence, guys, and that's true. Drugs are always a source of violence because generally people have drug debts. People run up drug debts, but also there's fights over the drug trade, controlling it and making the money off the drugs. So that's not a problem there. And also people who get high, they can get violent. They can hallucinate. The person, multiple people assault and stab a person who was so high he couldn't stand up or walk straight. That's another issue too. Getting incapacitated in the jail is a dangerous thing. But yeah, debts over drug use. But people, and this is the thing, families will say check on their loved ones. And the guy told the COs he was scared because his life is in danger and he can't send any more money. Because he had a drug debt. And that's the thing. You don't want a drug debt in prison or jail. So they talk about there's poor security practices contribute to large amounts of contraband. And they say jail staff don't conduct adequate security rounds to identify and remove contraband. That's because they're the ones bringing it in. Jail staff is the number one source of contraband getting into any sort of controlled facility. That is how it goes. That's where it all comes from. That's where everything comes from, is the jail staff. That's where everything comes from. So it happens. Happens all the time. Yeah, so planned housing searches are not conducted, or they're tipping off the guys. And searches of incarcerated people, including pat-downs, are not conducted appropriately. Jail staff appear apathetic towards a problem. Yeah, because they're probably getting paid off Number one, and number two, the less they fuck with the inmates, the less they'll get fucked with. If they start acting hard, well, then they risk getting attacked or getting hurt or getting injured. So there is a reason why they don't want to do it. There is a reason why they don't want to do it. And they said that, like, this is a funny thing here. One officer reported that reduced the number of weapons. He would announce that he needed to find 10 weapons on the table when he returned. He would leave the zone, and when he returned, there would always be the right number of weapons on the table, which were placed there. So he's like, I better find 10 shanks when I come back. And, he would come back and, like, boop, 10 fucking shanks on the table. You're like, what? First it suggests that weapons remain in the zone, yes. And second, the incarcerated people likely pressure the most vulnerable in the unit to surrender their weapons. Yeah. Yes, and here's the thing, guys. Yes, they talk about drones. People have burned holes in the windows with the apparent purpose of receiving contraband from drones. In May of 2024, officers found various contraband inside a cell that had a hole in the window. More than 2 weeks before this incident, officers identified a burned-out window in the cell, left a huge opening for contraband. And there was an issue here in one of the Ohio prisons where the drone flew over the yard and dropped the. There were 2 sides of the yard. It dropped the contraband into the wrong yard, and it caused a riot a couple years ago. So, when we inspected the jail, holes were still visible from the parking lot. It's like the mayor of Kingstown where they're chucking like soccer balls over the wall or tennis balls. But people are still housed in these spots. Like, oh, Jesus. There you go. There you go, guys. There are the holes in the walls. Holes in the windows. Think about how long you'd sit there to burn a hole through that plastic. Yes, like the pigeons with their backpacks. Yes. So that happens. Corrupt staff are also a significant source of contraband. They're the major source. Multiple staff members have been arrested for trafficking into the jail. In August, 4 private security guards were arrested for contraband trafficking and improper relationships with incarcerated people. That's the other thing, too. Having sex with the inmates. That's never allowed. Hey, officers, and they said that officers working at the South Annex were not screened upon entering the facility because they were a specially selected group. A few months later, somebody assigned to the South Annex was arrested on charges of having an inappropriate relationship with an inmate and bringing contraband into the jail. So in the past few efforts, they have used body scanner machines, machines to scan incoming mail, a restriction on staff bringing personal bags into the facility. Now, what happens with that, if you ever see people going to work at a jail or working in a prison, they'll also have to get clear backpacks. They make clear plastic backpacks where they could see everything inside of it. And that's the other way they get around that. They're using fire-retardant glass when replacing windows. But they say without improving supervision and monitoring, this doesn't do anything. They don't respond to grievances and complaints from inmates. They don't investigate action. They don't investigate the violence. And yes, grievances, you guys may hear it if you ever listen to jail stuff like sending a kite. That's what it's called. But yes, people are allowed to communicate with the administration, but the jail doesn't adequately investigate or respond to grievances, including those submitted for personal safety. But yeah, they want you to submit a grievance through a kiosk, but yet they're inoperable or missing. There are paper grievance forms, but they're not available in the housing units. And the grievance coordinator admitted that most of the grievances are safety issues. They review of the jail's response to those revealed gross deficiencies. They said, that an incarcerated person needed to direct their issue to another staff or to file another form. So it's like, you did the wrong form, sir. We need form 206, not form 204. They said one homicide victim submitted 13 grievances in August, the month he died. Well, maybe that's because he's a snitch. But he said in 5 of those, he said he reported experiencing violence from people at the jail. They say in a grievance submitted shortly before he was moved to the 7th floor on the south side, he reported that officers were trying to move him into a more dangerous location because he had reported them for misconduct. He explained that moving him was dangerous because he had issues with people on multiple floors. The grievance officer didn't respond until a month later, which he said, this grievance is over 30 days old. If your issue is still unresolved, please resubmit your complaint. This office apologizes for the delay. So it's not that, hey, you submitted this a month late, but sorry, we didn't get to it in time, so we're not going to bother with it. That's the issue until a month later. It's like, just look at that. That is just, yeah. Go back to the, sir, you're going to have to go back to the underlined, submit a new form. Yes, by the time the responsive person was already dead. And the grievances about violence are usually ignored. So this guy talked about that he was attacked by somebody and that the other guy had assaulted other people. So he submitted a grievance. The grievance officer said, the grievance was improperly filed as an emergency, told the person to refile a general grievance form, and then closed it. Oh my God, he's going to kill me. Sir, this isn't a real emergency. That's great. That's great. Yes, to be fair, you could mark it off. Yep. I'm sure he went in his book and was like, well, that one's done. That's the end of that chapter. That's sad he had to do it that way, but he did, yes. Jail Dub says, I wouldn't last in jail. You're goddamn fucking right, but I don't want to fucking go there. Most of us wouldn't. Even a 17-year-old who claimed he was sexually assaulted triggered no action to address the issue. He had submitted an emergency request that he had been raped and was bleeding. The grievance officer responded that she turned the grievance over to the jail's investigations unit, didn't do anything else, and closed the grievance. Later, they filed another emergency grievance, reporting that he was being sexually assaulted again and being raped by inmates and requesting to move. The grievance officer responded that she forwarded the grievance to the PREA investigator. PREA is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It's a federal law, chat, because rape and sexual assault is like a real fucking problem. And the federal government, Congress passed a law about it. If you guys want to see something fucked up, there is if you Google jail or prison PREA rape video, it's here on YouTube. You can watch it. And when you go to prison, you have to watch the video. It informs you of your rights under the Rape Elimination Act. And it tells you all the things that can happen. And one of the guys on there, he's like, yeah, when I was in prison, I got raped all the time. And now you guys don't have to. The law will protect you. Mutt's loss in full effect. Oof. Yeah. So, you don't want to watch it, you don't be freaked out. Well, there you go. That's how it works. There's a whole world out there you guys don't know about or haven't experienced. So, I guess I'll tell you about it. Amateur Iconoclast says, I wish I could tell you that Andy fought the good fight and the sisters let him be. I wish I could tell you that. But prison is no fairy tale world. Yamal says that's why you stay in Gen Pops and you don't get your cheeks took. Buddy, you get, it happens everywhere. That's not being a Gen Pop doesn't make you safe. Gen Pop is bad. Depends on Gen Pop is not safe. It's no less safe. It's no more safer. So, have I ever told a client never to eat the candy bar? Yeah. I watched Oz, so I know all this. Yeah, well, okay. I've never I can't there are rapes in prison, but I can't imagine it's that bad as Oz. That's all Oz was people getting raped all the time. And it's always weird now that you watch, if you watch Oz now, you're going to be like, hey, the American Family Insurance guy, or no, We Are Farmers guy, the guy at Farmers Insurance, J.K. Simmons. He was raping the fuck out of people. And you're like, and was an avowed white supremacist, was the leader of the Nazis in the prison. You're like, what the fuck? Yes. Hello, Mr. Schillinger. Yes. Oh. A lot of Dorothy's in Oz, yeah. Based. It's based. Oh my god. The writer said that if you showed up late, you got raped. All right. So, anyways, this guy's like, I'm getting raped. Help me. And he says, despite the request, we received no incident reports or documents indicating that anyone investigated these complaints. So the 17-year-old kid is getting raped at the jail, and he's begging for help. And they're like, yeah, we'll get to it. And nobody ever did it. So, but yes, if there's serious violence, a sound correctional practice includes thorough investigation to identify the source of the violence, determine what led to the violence, and do corrective actions. That may include increasing staffing, addressing blind spots, counseling staff to improve their security, rebalancing the mix of different gangs, identifying the source of contraband. Without that, there's nothing you can do. Well, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. And there used to be on here all the time, Corrections 101. He's a retired CO. I think he would be, I'd love to have him. I wish he was here because his input on this would be very impressive. So this would be very interesting. So they say when they do have to investigate, it's just minimal. They don't do anything. The investigations lack an effort to understand the precipitating factors. They don't follow up on leads. They just don't do anything, chat. They don't do anything. They fail to follow up on this, and they don't propose corrective actions. So they say, for example, somebody said he was bleeding from his head. He said that multiple people stabbed him while he was sleeping in his cell, and they did so at a nurse's request because he had spit at her. So the guy spits at a nurse, and the nurse tells the other guys to go stab him up. The investigator reviewed nobody except the victim and the officer who found him. The investigator did not review surveillance video because there was no accurate timetable for the stabbing. No one was charged in the stabbing, and the only corrective action was to move the guy to another housing area. The investigation report does not explain how the people were able to enter his cell while he was asleep, whether the zone would be searched for the weapons, or whether the nurse might have had some involvement, or how the assault occurred undetected. So, yet they found no evidence the jail conducts meaningful investigations, even after there's a violent death at the jail. They say, we found no investigation and security failures related to the homicide of a person on the mental health unit. And they say that even though the assailant had been arrested just 2 weeks before for a serious stabbing outside the jail, which that victim died. Which, that's interesting. You know, the guy who stabs people to death stabbed more people to death. It's like, imagine that. Imagine that. It's like season 3 of Oz. It's Dr. Nathan and Ryan O'Reilly. Oh my God. Oh. You know, but they found no record of any investigation. None. They The failure to prevent harm was particularly notable with regards to sexual abuse investigations. Remember Chat PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act. The standards that were correctional should investigate all allegations of sex abuse promptly, thoroughly, and objectively, even if the victim or witness is challenging or unwilling to cooperate. And they say to conduct a thorough investigation, you gather and preserve direct and circumstantial evidence and interview alleged victims, suspected perpetrators, and witnesses. And they say these investigations should be documented in written reports. And this is federal, guys. These are CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. Like, there are rules. This is a federal law that is implemented. You have to do it. The reasoning behind credibility assessments and the investigation facts and findings. Like, it's got to be thoroughly discussed. And the jail has poor processes for identifying and tracking sex abuse allegations. It failed to properly identify or make findings. And they found dozens of incidents that should have been investigated. There was no documentation showing they even did anything at all. They say in these incidents, an officer did often in some initial investigation, including taking statements and beginning a cell relocation, but then refer the incident to the jail's detectives for a pre-investigation. They say based on the information, though, no follow-ups ever occurred. It was unclear whether the failure to investigate was based on a decision the allegations did not warrant investigation, which if they don't require any, we don't believe it, then they should put in their report, we don't believe what this guy did. It's easy enough. It's easy enough to do, but they don't do it that way. They say a lack of resources or for some other reason. But they have other examples. Somebody filed a grievance reporting they had been assaulted. The officer submitted a report and he said, I spoke to the guy who confirmed he had been assaulted. The officer brought the person to medical and then notified the watch commander and the PREA coordinator. Despite request, we received no other documentation regarding this or any other investigation. There was no file, no copy of the grievance or the statement, and no information. No information about whether the victim went off-site for an examination, and no evidence that they made any findings. When they did receive documentation reflecting some type of investigation, they found the investigators did not take basic steps. They failed to bring an incarcerated person to an outside hospital for a medical exam, even though he reported that he had been sexually assaulted the night before. And the nurse told the COs this. 3 weeks later, he saw another member of the medical staff, a doctor, and complained he had never been properly evaluated. The doctor informed the PREA coordinator, who confirmed that he was not taken to the hospital due to an error in communication. And they say 4 months after this happened, there was no record of any interviews of victims or witnesses. There was no surveillance video, and there were no findings. Like, this is big. These guys are big fucking problems, and they aren't taking care of anybody. This is actually, this is depressing. It's really fucking bad. It's really awful. It's really awful what they're doing here. Apparently they have a new PREA coordinator who's improved the quality of the investigations, but that's it's a start. The sex abuse investigations remain, however, problematic. The jail received 39 allegations of misconduct, including 28 of abuse and 11 of sexual harassment, which that is also covered under PREA. Sexual harassment is also, them telling you to do something. Like if they told you to suck my dick, that's actually against federal, that has to be reported technically. By August of 2024, they had only closed 15 of those cases. 9 were declared unfounded, 6 unsubstantiated, 0 substantiated, and 24 were unresolved. And the PREA Act requires that facilities conduct incident reviews after every substantiated and unsubstantiated investigation. You know, they just never do it. They never do any of this stuff they're supposed to do under law. Yes. Yes, don't bother none says, booty was more important than drinking water. Yes. When I talk about the excessive force here, guys, and it just goes on. Just completely excessive force. And they aren't, and I will say, like we've talked about, if you guys go on Twitter right now, you can watch the video of the guy in New York getting beat to death. He's handcuffed in the infirmary of the prison, and they just beat the fucking brakes off this guy. They beat him to death. Multiple officers start beating him and kicking him. One of the officers starts kicking him in the balls while he's handcuffed, and they killed a guy. Yeah, and that's the thing. Heads won't roll over this. Nobody's, the ones in New York might because they got caught on camera. But overall, yeah, nobody's going to jail over this. Nobody's going to prison. Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of it. It's Chinatown, Jake. It's Chinatown, Jake. So, anyways, when it comes to the issues of use of force, chat, the uses of force for a corrections officer, they use an objective reasonableness standard that examines whether the force purposely or knowingly used against the inmate was objectively unreasonable, regardless of the officer's state of mind. They say objective reasonableness turns on the facts and circumstances of each case, and the court must make this determination from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene, including what the officer knew at the time, not with 20/20 vision of hindsight. So, but you also look at the need for the use of force, the amount of force used, the extent of the injuries suffered. Any effort made by the officer to limit the amount of force, the severity of the security problem, the threat perceived by the officer, and whether the inmate, who's generally the plaintiff, was actively resisting. So they looked at through all of this, and here's what they figured out. They reviewed sample reports, and they did surveillance of body camera footage. And surprisingly, chat, many use of forces occur because people refuse orders to return to their cells or housing units. Imagine that. People in jail don't like being told what to do. Although they say in many cases, people express fear of returning because of the risk of violence. And they say this suggests the jail's inability to control violence among the inmates contributes to many uses of force. And they say, once again, the adequate supervision and staff creates the conditions for staff to use excessive force. And that's true. When there are limited numbers, you have to use more violence to control people. And they say when a single officer is alone in a housing unit with multiple people, it's more likely they'll resort to using OC spray, pepper spray, or a taser to assert control instead of first attempting de-escalation or less dangerous force techniques. And they say after one CO used pepper spray, the officer told his colleagues, "I didn't want to get hands-on because I was up here by myself." And that's the thing. When you start fighting with a guy and they have to start wrestling with him, well, now he's preoccupied and he can't protect himself. And the others could jump him. And they bring this up routinely. And they say the officer uses force when unnecessary. The officers frequently use force on incarcerated people for violating rules, even when they pose no threat to safety or security of anyone. Officers rarely, if ever, try to de-escalate and use de-escalation techniques or even call for assistance before using force. In some cases, officers do not even give commands or verbal warnings before resorting to force. And that's, imagine that. They haven't even given you a warning, like, do this or I'm going to attack you. Like, I'd like to think some of them are probably like not even telling the person to go in their cell. They just start beating them. They need Clancy Brown up in there. Yeah, well, remember what happened to Guard Hadley. He ended up going to prison himself, so. So they say in most of the unreasonable force we observe is the use of conducted electrical weapons or tasers. And they say tasers have two modes, guys. Remember, you could shoot the prongs out or you could do the drive stun. So the probe or drive stun. In the probe mode, you fire the two barbs that pierce the skin. In the drive stun, you press the taser actually into the person and pull the trigger. And they say that we found the officers respond to minor transgressions with force. So in August, an officer told a man to retrieve the basketball and give it to him. According to the officer's report, the man did not comply, so the officer fired his taser. Oh, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. So, as they say, among the use of force incidents reviewed, the overwhelming majority involved passive resistance. They say, for example, an officer sprayed a man with pepper spray without warning for failing to pack up items after an officer ordered him to do so. They talk about another time an officer twice used a taser on a man who was yelling and swearing in protest of the removing of a TV. The officer did not give any commands or use any de-escalation. And another time they fired a taser at a guy who argued and refused to hang up the phone. They say the man eventually hung up, but one of the officers fired a taser at him anyway. Well, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that like that, chat. I mean, I would not recommend that if you're a CO. So don't do it that way. They talk about a sergeant macing two separate people within 10 minutes of each other. Body-worn camera shows that neither person physically or verbally threatened staff or others. The sergeant called both people idiots after using the pepper spray on them. And another officer told the sergeant, "Man, Sarge, you're on fire today." Then obviously, so they're going to treat people who have mental health issues with problems here. So they use force on people experiencing mental health crises without first involving staff or attempting to de-escalate. They punched an OC. They maced a 17-year-old kid during a struggle that followed the officer's removal of a zipper from the boy's uniform. Why was he taking a zipper off? That just seems a little weird. But because they said he had a recent history of using zippers to cut himself. But the incident report accounts no attempts to summon medical staff. Otherwise, de-escalate before the officers ripped the zipper off by force. That's got to be hard to cut yourself with a zipper. Yeah. Man, Sarge, you're acting like the New York subway system. So they also tased a man with serious mental illness and a known seizure disorder 5 times in a year. We obtained video of 2 of the taser uses, and both involved unnecessary and disproportionate uses of force. Now, here's the neat thing. The DOJ can file charges against these people, but they're not going to, it sounds like, and that's bullshit. Officers tased an incarcerated man who said he felt like hurting himself and then he needed to see a mental health provider. Rather than taking a man to the mental health, the officers tried to make him return to his housing. A sergeant tased the man when he held onto a bench to avoid being forced back into his pod. Gee. And they say that twice, though, 2 officers were charged for unreasonable force. Well, that's nice. In the first one, a CO grabbed a woman's throat while she was being booked into the jail. The woman was swearing and resisting, but did not pose a threat. The officer, and I love this one, reading this one. The officer had told the woman, "I choke folks, and hold your face before you lose your breath." I love that line. When I read this before, this is the part where I'm like, you got to love that line. Hold your face before you lose your breath. as he held the woman's neck and she lost consciousness. Yeah. You're like, damn, homie. So officers that were there from a local police department reported the incident. The officer pled guilty to civil rights violations and was sentenced to 4 years in prison for the assault, which is good. Good. I hope it fucking hurts. Don't tasers cause seizures? They can. That coward choked a woman out. I know. Imagine if you're his son and you brought home a C on your report card, or if you're his wife and you burned dinner. I'm imagining you get the similar treatment. One of the supervisors was present during the incident and failed to intervene. Instead, commenting, "Oh, now she's trying to pass out. Really?" And the supervisor got a 1-day suspension for her conduct. In the second, a detention officer held an incarcerated person's neck while pressing his taser to the man's head. The officer kept his hand on the incarcerated person's neck for nearly 20 seconds, during which time the person was seated handcuffed and did not pose a threat. The officer said he acted in response to the incarcerated person leaving the zone without authorization, threatening the officer's sister, and forming spit in his mouth as if to spit on the officer. After the person submitted an emergency grievance and threatened legal action, investigators reviewed the footage and filed charges themselves. Well, there you go. So, and they argue the tasers are too often unreasonable. And yes, tasers can cause problems. Well, tasers can, cause injury if the probes enter a sensitive part of the body, like the eyes or genitals. And this does happen. So a woman had probes embedded in the back of her neck. A guy had probes embedded into his bone. And the bigger issue is, and this is actually an issue when people get shot with a firearm as well, chat. Taser victims are temporarily paralyzed and cannot protect themselves as they fall. This is especially dangerous if they're on stairs or an elevated surface. Now, here's the thing. When you're standing still and you fall, a fall from standing height is, now if you guys aren't up on your first aid training, somebody who falls from a standing position, there is a real risk and concern for cervical spinal injury because that's far enough. And that's a very common thing with if people are shot, because when you're shot, you're normally standing up and you fall down. So there's a risk of cervical spine injury. And for a taser, that's really 100% apparent because when people get tased, they do the Irish jig and then they fall over. Well, they're really not controlled. Jarex says, I have cushion. Yeah, but it's a lot hitting the ground at once. Yeah, they go stiff when shot. Zero Fuck says we need to make good quadrupeds again. No. Travion says, I'm a guy, so I'm not worried about my cervix. Not that cervical. Oh. Falls under 6 feet are pretty dangerous. Yep. It doesn't take much. They say, despite these risks, cops use their tasers far often than would be expected, given the size of population of the jail. Among use of force reports from February through August of 2023, the overwhelming majority involved at least one taser. Man, these guys are keeping taser in business. The taser rep for that area, he must do real well, dropping off crates of new taser heads. Taser use is so common that individual officers sometimes tase multiple people in a day. Two officers fired tasers at a man who had just had a seizure. They reportedly tased a man because he reached toward a lieutenant's belt when they were putting him on the stretcher. The man fell or jumped from the stretcher and writhed on the floor screaming. When he tried to sit up, they tased him again. They used several additional taser cycles on the man while he thrashed on the floor. After the last cycle, the man said, I couldn't breathe. Medical staff approached and told the officer to stop because the man was or had had a seizure. This is fucked up, guys. Oh, this is fucked. This is so fucked. Yeah, they saved him. They fixed it. They fixed him. They fixed him, chat. Oh. This is... So the officer conducting the use of force incidents demonstrates a proper use of the taser. Yeah. Officers do not warn people before using the taser. In many incidents, officers target the legs rather than the torso. They aim at the legs routinely, and it makes it less likely for an effective hit, but it increases the risk of striking the genitals. Officers seem to miss their targets even at close range. Yeah. And there's excessive... The training is inadequate. The jail lacks systems to identify excessive force and address it. Supervisors almost rarely hold officers accountable for using excessive force. The jail's use of force policy does not advise officers on how to use the need for force or whether force is proportionate and reasonable as required under law. The policy does not explain the distinctions between the terms, and the use of force continuum is silent on the level of resistance that would justify using a taser. But they talk about the continuum of force, chat, where you might go from verbal statements to slight use of your hands to going hands-on to using pepper spray or a baton to a taser. Then if you were a cop on the street, then a gun. There's a use of force continuum. And the continuum authorizes officer to use certain techniques. So like arm locks, restraints, pressure points. If you have to, punching and striking. They've said that they routinely use tasers on people with behavioral needs. But the policy prohibits officers from discharging tasers at emotionally disturbed persons with violent behavior or against suicidal people, unless they're like in an immediate danger to themselves or others. The jail has a use of force procedure that allows officers to use the amount of non-deadly force necessary to regain control of his duty, task, or assignment when someone interrupts their work. This directive erroneously suggests that officers may use force as a tool to save time rather than addressing a specific threat. You're not allowed to use force just to make your day go by quicker. Or you're like, I gotta go on break. We better force this guy in there. You're not allowed to do that. You are not fucking allowed to do that. Oh. Yes, you're interrupting my work. They argue that the training lacks examples to illustrate situations in which you could deploy tasers or escalate resistance from passive resistance towards active resistance. It's also not clear what those in charge of training are familiar with the use of force policy. One supervisor said the sheriff's office does not use the use of force continuum or train on it, despite them having a use of force policy, chat. Like, this is the thing. The guy's like, we don't have that. But it's like, but you do. But you do. So, yeah, they don't review or do anything. So, they've used a pepper ball gun, which is one of the paintball guns with the little pepper spray in them. And he climbed up on the rafters of his housing unit. There's no report or There's no materials indicating that it was reviewed. it was never assessed to be, was it necessary or reasonable? And out of 271 use of force reports, they just found one use to be out of policy. Yet their review found dozens of unreasonable uses of force. But they always say, well, he didn't comply, so therefore it's justified. And this going back to the guy who was shot for not using the phone, they said it was not excessive and was necessary considering the inmate failed to comply with the officer's lawful order. There was no discussion about alternative measures, which is true. But they'll describe people as combative or assaultive based solely on verbal statements or comments, without reference to any physical action or behavior. And they said one time the guy wrote the inmate was being combative and exhibiting a heightened level of aggression. Well, what exactly does that mean? What exactly does that mean, chat? It says, leading the cops to shoot him with a taser. They say, in fact, the man was merely sitting on top of a day room table and refusing to go to his cell. The supervisor reviewed that and approved it. It's like, oh no, chat. So, it just happens here. And it gets to the best ones here. I'm done talking. So, this one is interesting. So, there was an older inmate who refused to stand up because he wanted medical attention. He said he had been in an accident and hurt his shoulder, and he screamed when they tried to grab his arm. The man threatened and argued with the officer, and the officer reported that he started to fear for his safety. The officer stepped back, aimed his taser, and fired immediately without warning, yelled, "I'm done talking. I'm done talking." That's it. Yeah. Yeah, don't tase me, bro. Well, I'm done talking. I'm done talking to you. No more, chat. That's it. That's it. You're done. Yes. Well, that's a funny thing. Yes. Don't even stop talking. So, as the guy was laying on the floor, they kept tasing him. In the report, the officer said he only did it four total times. Although the body camera footage suggests between 6 and 8 cycles at the man. So nobody's disciplined. They're rarely disciplined. When they are disciplined, it's light. They said out of 338 disciplinary hearings in 22 and the first 8 months of 2023, 18 people were charged with mistreatment of prisoners or use of force issues. According to staff of physically abused incarcerated people should be dismissed, and they should be. My camera's following you, like Andrew says. I turned it off. Is it back? It shouldn't be following. Is it following me? What the hell? I turned all that off. I don't want it tracking. I don't want it tracking me. It's like, stop. Stop that. There we go. Let's see if that works now. There we go. That was weird. Yes. What are you doing, stalker camera? What are you doing, stalker camera? Oh. What are you doing, stalker camera? Why is this being ridiculous? Let's see if I go here. Whoop, whoop. Oh, you're gonna miss me. You're gonna miss me. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh geez, chat. Geez, Rick. Oh geez, Rick. Oh, Executor 66, yeah. I don't want to suddenly focus on your piece on the desk. Well, that's not down there. So, yeah, the feds are involved. Well, they said even when they sustained excessive force allegations and the county policy indicated dismissal was a sanction, officers often received only counseling or one-day suspensions. In January 2023, that a detention officer tased a handcuffed person in the back while escorting him out of a housing zone. You're not allowed to tase people. Like there's like federal circuit courts have like in qualified immunity cases have said you cannot tase people who are handcuffed. You're not allowed to do that unless they're actively hurting somebody. You can't do that. You can't do that. But they determined the incarcerated person posed no imminent threat and was not actively resisting. They gave him a one-day suspension with the directive to enroll in a training course on verbal judo. And verbal judo is just how to kind of de-escalate verbally with people. It's if you work sales, you have verbal judo. So, and these guys used violated force again and again. One time, the chief deputy recommended dismissing an officer, but the officer received a one-day suspension. A higher-ranking officer had observed him walking around a unit screaming, "Get the fuck up," and incarcerating people during head count and slapping one inmate on the face. 3 months later, the officer used a taser against another man who, according to the incident report she wrote, had his fist balled up. It was about to hit another officer. But the body-worn camera shows the man wasn't a threat. He had turned his back to the officers, did not have his hands balled, and was starting to crouch down when the officer tased him. So, and yeah, it just, guys, it keeps going here. It keeps. Kat says, "This is why I'm a dental hygienist." Yeah. You're saying, is verbal judo like a tongue lashing? No, verbal judo is just like verbal de-escalation. If you ever worked in sales, it's like you have an angry customer. It's just the art of persuasion and just getting them to kind of chill out. You just get people to calm down. You redirect them to like, look, let me help you. I'm sorry you're upset. I would be upset in your situation too. Instead of you say like, hey, tell me what's going wrong. Person's mad. Okay, tell me what's up. And you guys will hear this. We watch body cam videos. Some cops say like, come here. Other ones who are trying to de-escalate it go like, look, hey man, what's wrong? Can we talk about this? Can you come over here and talk to me? What's going on? How can I help you? All that stuff. So Sean gets us to calm down by saying calm down. Yes. So so that's all verbal judo does. That's all verbal judo does. So it's not like a tongue lashing. You're trying to win, you're trying to make friends and convince people. Now, if you're a cop, you're trying to get people to comply, but for like you and me, you're trying to get people to do stuff. Jails, the housing units are full of flooded water from toilets and sinks. Pests abound. Jail cells and common areas are filthy and unhygienic. The jail doesn't provide enough food, and food preparation are not sanitary. It's bad. It's bad. The right to basic sanitation includes access to basic elements of hygiene. And the 11th Circuit, where Georgia is, has also recognized the right of incarcerated people to a reasonable level of food. If you guys think like, oh, they don't deserve it, well, then like you remember Shawshank at the beginning where they're eating like rice with maggots in it, and then Brooks is like feeding them to his little bird, Jake. That's how it used to be before the courts got involved. So, as much as you guys might say fuck them, that's what the alternative was. Sorry, Dorn says, "Do not redeem, sir. Do not redeem. Why you do that?" Do some jails have good food? Yes, some jails do. One of the offices I worked at, you could go get when they made food, people who worked at the jail and the deputies could get food. And I gone down there before, when they were making hey, what do we make? What's today? And they're like, oh yeah, oh cool, I'll have lunch too. Wasn't bad a lot of days. Some days it was like, ooh, I'll pass. But there were some days where it was like, wow, that's pretty good. So, but they point out that the jail officials know about this, that it's very. Yes, when I was an assistant prosecutor, yeah, you could go down and get it. But yeah, it was like the living conditions are unclean. There's inadequate pest control. There are no chemical control measures there. The food's insufficient, nutritionally inadequate, and the food preparation sucks. It's also the jail officials' failure to remedy this contributes to health and safety issues. The plumbing failures create safety hazards and health risks. Many cells and day rooms are filled with large pools of flooded water that can lead to mold growth. And imagine that window that's burned open. Guess what? Mosquitoes will come in, and mosquitoes can breathe in the water, and you can have other bugs and parasites. 2 people have been hospitalized from slipping and falling in water pools. Somebody had a gaping wound to his leg, and some guy cracked his skull open. Remember, you're walking around those shitty little Crocs. Guess you don't have any traction. They say another guy was discovered lying in cold water on his cell floor. His skin was cold, and he was found to have hypothermia. There were 33 cells with broken sinks. Most sinks did not operate properly, some had no running water. And remember, guys, that when you're stuck in jail, if you're on lockdown, that's where you get water from. They won't bring you water. You have your sink in your cell. Other sinks only sprayed water on the floor. Many incarcerated people had rigged their sinks with straws to control the water. They found many toilets had leaks. The jail pipe chases are a problem. There are leaking pipes everywhere, large pools of water, and the water breaks down and destroys the concrete over time and the cinder blocks. Water would seep through walls into other cells. They observed incarcerated people trying to mop up pooled pipe leaks with their bedding and linens. The showers are full of mold, dirt, and peeling paint. There's, the shower curtains are a safety risk and a security risk. The drains in the padded cells which function as the toilets, because when you're in the padded cells and the crazy cells, that's where you go to the bathroom. They had trash and human waste in them, and several padded cells smelled strongly of crap. One padded cell also appeared to have turds on the walls. I mean, there you go. You get locked in there. What do you do now? Individual cells are sanitary and aren't cleaned. Cell sinks contain so much dirt, they're unsafe for use. The toilets are filthy, and we observe clothing items in them, indicating unsafe self-laundering practices, and that's, you got to wash yourself. The bunks were rusty and had dirt and debris on the platforms. Bacteria can grow and harmful germs can spread. Here you go. Toilet and a sink and a unit in a cell. Imagine being stuck in this. Imagine being stuck in that. Air quality and ventilation's poor. The housing units are dusty and moldy and mildewy. The air vents are dry and blow dust into the air. The vents are rusted and fucked up. There are exposed wires everywhere. That's a safety risk. That's a safety risk. That's a safety risk. And imagine that you have exposed wires and water everywhere. This is a problem. contact with exposed wires is dangerous. But people will do this and to vandalize light switches to operate the lights. Staff know the inmates do this, and they watched as incarcerated people showed us how to use one of the plastic objects to turn on a light. Then this one's actually something everybody does. Inmates will also use exposed wires as lighter devices called a stinger, and also to heat water. Like, if you guys ever watch any of the guys who have been to prison, Larry Lawton, After Prison Show, 23 in Lockdown, those guys all talk about like how creative you could be, like making tattoo guns. Like if you watch any of the prison documentaries, making an iron, hooking up an iron that'll run off an outlet, hooking up a water heater, a ghetto toaster. Like there's some people in prison, their job when they run the store is they can make you a grilled cheese sandwich because they've got all the tools. So they're as creative as Cubans, yeah. April says, who's responsible for the jail? The Fulton County Sheriff's Office. So, yeah, Henderson Opinion says, Bunky, I'm going to fire up some water. You want some? Bussin'. Yes. Yes, these are the conditions that Jailhouse Rock, Stick, Sex, and Hammer. Ghetto toaster. No, it's a real thing, dude. Yeah, it's a real thing. Gandalf says you use paper on the iron and keep flipping the sandwich. Yeah, but some of them, like some of the guys, and guys have told me this before too, like you end up at the bottom, the hot plate of the iron. That's all you have in the wiring for it. You don't have the rest of the iron. So you have like a contraband, like hot plate. And yeah, you're running a toaster, but you have the bottom part of an iron. You don't have the rest of it. The rest of it got broken. So you came across as some guy gave it to you or traded to you. You bought it off him, and he moved on and got released. So now you're the guy with the little ironing thing, and you have part of an iron. So yeah, it's a very common thing. So it's a very Suffolk criminals. Well, they're suffering, all right. Yamal says, if my bunkie says bus into me, I'm fighting him. Be careful. That's not what bussin'. He said bussin', not boosie. Bussin'. Come on. Can't fight every black guy or every Gen Zer. Yes, it's the same place where the guy died and had lice all over him. Yes, did we get to the Boonie Goon part? Yeah, well, we did talk about booty gooning, yes. Donald Duck says, how is this jail still running? Because it's nobody where else are you going to put him? Where else are you going to put him? Yes, it is an example of inmate ingenuity. Jeffrey Epstein himself. Is it following me? Yeah, it's following me. Ah. Woo. Yeah, booyah. Check you out. No, it's staying right there. Jeffrey Epstein was able to make a gallows out of toilet paper in a bed. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So, they say in 2023, when an inmate set a blazing fire inside a restrictive housing area, resulting in the evacuation of 15 inmates and closure of an entire pod. Despite the smoke from the fire filling the pod and becoming so dense as to obscure the view of the cameras, officers only realized there was a fire when they heard loud banging from inside the housing area. No fire alarms or nothing, chat. No fire alarms or nothing. Just people going, help, help, there's a fire. Not like, oh, we can't see shit on camera. One incarcerated person reported that the residents locked inside their cells felt they were suffocating and attempted to get air from under their doors. They were evacuated 21 minutes after the fire was first seen on video. It's unclear how he did it, but the extent of the damage and the slow response demonstrate the risk of harm from fire in the jail. I mean, that's even worse, guys. Imagine you're stuck in basically a broom closet and there's a fire and you can't get out. The laundry service fails to ensure sanitary conditions. Some inmates resort to washing their own clothes, including sinks and toilets or buckets, with bar soap because of issues with the laundry service. Well, that's also common in prison, though, because you don't get laundry all the time and you don't get, you got to take care of your own hygiene. The lack of adequate laundry increases the risk of infections, fungus disease, and disease causing microorganisms. The jail doesn't use laundry bags, which are critical for protecting laundry staff and incarcerated workers from harmful pathogens. The laundry area has dryer lint screens full of lint, a fire hazard, but also means they don't dry. So in July, there was a carbon monoxide leak in the jail, and the jail had to shut down the kitchen and stop services. The sheriff's office reported 2 of its 8 big kettles were leaking carbon monoxide. And the kitchen was closed for 3 weeks. Routine preventative maintenance was not being done. Shocker, chat. Poor pest control. There's inadequate steps to control lice, cockroaches, and rodents. And rats and, the parasites and bacteria and bugs spread disease, and rats are a way for those things to move around. So, and they talk about the guy, remember, we talked about in the beginning. One of the guys was covered in lice when he was found dead in his cell in the mental health ward. And the jail staff were aware of the lice infestations and the poor living conditions. And they found that every person in the mental health unit, over 100 people, had lice, scabies, or both. And they say the month he died, an infection report documented 204 ectoparasite cases in the jail. And there were outbreaks in the preceding months. 36 parasite cases in June 2022, 151 in 2020 July, and 55 in August. They aren't taking care of people. You have lice, bed bugs, mites, and ticks. This is it's just awful. It's just awful. They found people who were entering the jail who were not being examined for all this stuff. They also recommended that they allow showers at least 3 times a week and enforce laundry exchange, indicating that this wasn't happening. The guys aren't showering and they're not getting new clothes. Remember, if we're going to fucking jail people, we better be fucking responsible for it. We better fucking be responsible for it. I had scabies in jail. It was horrible. I bet it was horrible. Yamal says no daily shower access. You don't get showered. No, you don't get showers every day. You get showers a couple times a week. A lot of places it's generally twice a week. Sometimes it's once a week. But yeah, you don't. Twice a week is kind of a normal. 3 times a week is pretty good. Now you're itching. Oh no. Yeah. So after the death, they got $500 for decontamination and clinical cleaning. Didn't seem to work too well based on what we've seen. Emergency funding included an additional $500,000 for sanitizing all medical and psychiatric units in the jail. There were 48 ectoparasite cases per month at the jail in 2023. The funding lapsed in the fall of 2023, and the major medical problems continue. So there's still lice problems. One guy had lice after they found an open sore in his mouth. We observed the jail's barber cart moves between housing units and has clippers that are reused without adequate cleaning or disinfection between uses, which is a risk of spreading infestations and infections. This is one of the nastiest fucking things I've ever seen or was reading in here. Guys, especially guys or even women, you're like when you're getting haircuts, like guys, if you ever go to the barber shop and your barber's got that big glass jar full of blue shit and their combs in it, that's barbicide. That's a disinfectant that you put the combs in. You could soak tools in, clippers and trimmers, or like if you're going like I have a beard trimmer, I have a trimmer for the beard, and I have the spray. It's that spray that's got that, it's a lubricant, but it's also it's a disinfectant. You have to do that shit. There's all kinds of nasty shit that will come around from a unsanitized barber equipment. It's fucking nasty. It's fucking nasty. So it's just awful. Does it make you feel like you need a bath? Does it make you feel like it tastes good? Oh, no. WB says prison planet. Well, yes, it's a prison planet. That is what the globals want you to know. It is a prison planet, everyone. Oh. Yeah, you can get HIV from clippers. Yep. Make the sheriff and the commissioners live in that for a week and see how fast it gets fixed. Oh, I'm sure, but that won't ever happen like that. Barbicide. Oh no! Don't bring Chris Chan's mom into this. His mom was named Barb. Oh. Yeah, you always spray alcohol on a razor. That's never a bad idea. You can hop in the shower right now. They do have good barbers in jail. Leo says we out here tossing salad in Fulton County. Oh no. Yeah, this is your head is itchy. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway. When we inspected the jail, we were told to leave. One of the mental health. So yes, when the DOJ was inspecting the jail, there was a lice outbreak, so they had to leave that area. So the medical provider says a full health assessment is done for each new intake, even if one's completed within the past year. They found several occasions where the providers canceled because they had a previous stay in the jail. That means people could re-enter the jail and not receive skin checks or for infections they acquired in the community. Yes. If you've been there in the past 6 months, well, you could get licensed 6 months. Matthew Felty's like, okay, I'm out of here. I don't blame you. This is oof. Yeah. Michael says I might take my phone with me and a glass of wine with me for a bath so I could feel better. I get that. So, and yes, that's on top of people getting tattoos and having problems. Yeah. Yamal says when people get body lice, what does that even mean? Does that mean scabies? No, the lice can get all over your body. You can have lice in your armpits and your groin area. You can crabs, all that stuff. You can have lice everywhere. So, the jail was built in 1989. It's 35 years old. So, there you go. Yeah. Megal says, Sean, stop. Yeah. You could also have scabies as well, yes. Yes, crabs and lice. Well, it's like the joke about the guy. I got a joke for you, chat. So this guy goes to hooker, pays her $5, they have sex. A month later, the hooker's hanging out on the corner doing her thing, and the guy, the John she banged, gets out of his car holding a baseball bat, and he starts chasing her and starts screaming, "You bitch! You gave me crabs!" And she looks at him and says, "What'd you expect for $5? Lobster?" Ba-da-ba. Cockroaches roam the jail. Yes. They contaminate food by intermittently discharging food from their mouth and pooping. They do. We observed cockroaches scurrying out from under the jail's kitchen ovens. Some of these cockroaches were carrying egg casings, indicating breeding activity. Yes. There's rodent activity. We observed rodent traps, mouse traps were placed in ceiling panels and kitchen storage that had been disturbed, showing rodents had eaten them. The pest control practice. Oh, you guys are awesome. Patty Cake says you're actually allergic to cockroaches. Really? Didn't know you could be. So, the pest control technician will go into housing units, but does not regularly service housing units. How like it must not be doing a good job. They need a new guy. Cockroaches are still pleasant. And this is great. He was spraying pesticide while the food preparation was in progress. Notice he didn't do it like in the downtime. While they're cooking food, he's running around being Dale Gribble and just fucking spraying bug spray everywhere. Yes. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's the new song. Dun 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 dun. Crotch lobster. But they saw, but it wasn't a crotch. It was a crotch lobster. Oh. JL Dub says breeding activity fucking gross. Well, Grantham might be all about that if he finds out about it. Oh no. Yes, diatomaceous earth is a cheap bug killer. Yes. Jails could use it too, but yeah. Imagine hearing your significant other yell crotch lobster in the other room. Well, 2.0 doesn't have to imagine that. Paternity thumb strikes again. Yes. Yes, maybe he knocked up those cockroaches. Song ruined. Sorry, B. So, but they talk about the lack of cleanliness exacerbates problems. Rodents and roaches feed on the food particles and waters, especially standing water. There's other problems though. There's exposure to chemicals, including cleaning and disinfecting chemicals. The jail lacks appropriate chemical control practices, and it fails to store them in a safe manner. People are using these to harm themselves and others. 2 people have attempted suicide by ingesting bleach. Somebody was found hospitalized after they'd taken chemicals from central control and walked them back to their cell. Another person in the mental health unit grabbed a bleach bottle and threatened to drink it or throw it on officers. In another case, an inmate threw bleach at 2 others during a fight, hitting one person in the eyes. Somebody else swallowed a cup of bleach, believing it was water, and had to be transported to a hospital. Ugh. Yeah, maybe they just wanted to clean their insides out. Yeah. They heard. We have to inject yourself with bleach. But yeah, there's problems with there's problems with this, guys. The food is insufficient. And 90% of the people in the mental health unit were significantly malnourished with muscle wasting. They talk about the guy who was found with bugs. He had lost 30 pounds in the 3 months he'd been at the jail. When they did in 2022, 90% of the people living there were significantly malnourished with muscle wasting. Incarcerated people we spoke to, we spoke with described experiencing hunger. They explained that extortion for food is common because of the limited food supply. In one case, an inmate was tased, who was tased after he took an extra lunch check, explained he did so because he has diabetes and was hungry. Yeah, that's gotta be rough getting tased over a sandwich, but I respect the hustle being a sandwich guy. So, um, they say breakfast and dinner are hot meals, while lunch is just 2 meat or peanut butter sandwiches and sandwich cookies. The jail's vendors claimed its meals contain enough calories as well as vitamins and minerals, but it doesn't provide documentation. Our own analysis says the caloric and nutrition content is lower than was reported. In addition, we observed meals being served at even less variety and nutritional value than what the menus reflected. The meals with people with special needs that require special diets, if you have diabetes or cardiac disease, are unhealthy and safe. Um, the meal trays for diabetics and cardiac diets are not the same, are the same as everything else. It contained all the same items. Um, they argue that the sodium content is too high for someone with high blood pressure or diabetes. But also remember too, if you are if you are Muslim or Jewish, you can be entitled to special meal provisions. Well, doesn't sound like they take care of that either. Yeah, you might have celiac if you have celiac disease. All kinds of issues. Food preparation is unsafe. The loading dock is unclean with cockroach and rodent infestations. We observed bird crap around the food racks and the loading dock, and food grease left on the ground near a poorly maintained grease bin. That just sounds nasty. In addition, the food prepared in the kitchen is not prepared and kept at safe temperatures. Only one of the 14 hot food items we measured in the kitchen was at a safe temperature. Once the food left the kitchen, it took 30 minutes to reach the inmates, and many food trays were left uncovered during transport. So this stretched the period where they sat at dangerous temperatures, risking foodborne illness. In July 2024, the sheriff reported the kitchen's air conditioning had been out since April, and air temperatures in the kitchen were 90 degrees. Preparing food is dangerous because it's difficult to keep the food at safe temperatures. In some cases, people they make their own flames. In 2024, the inmates were discovered using a cell desk as an oven and had been doing so for some time. There were extremely strong fumes created by the makeshift oven. The officers didn't shut it down when they found it. Several days later, an officer noticed an incarcerated person with the oven attempting to put out a fire. So, yeah, you've seen spaghetti with uncooked meat. CO said, "Eat it or starve." Yeah, I could see that. It does happen. It does happen. Does happen. Bella's saying, breakfast, 1 boiled egg, 1 toast, 1 grits, hopefully without bugs, 1 lunch, 1 sandwich, peas and carrots. Dinner, peas and carrots, 1 square of bread, 1 slab of some spaghetti, or has something 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah. Yes, Yamal. Yes, the card. Excuse me, garçon. This is not what was listed on the jail menu. It's like, well. Oh. Yeah. You guys are just ridiculous. It's still better than Olive Garden. Oh. So they talk about the mental health care guys, and this is another issue here. They routinely don't care for people. There's high levels of violence and poor supervision. Um, nobody's properly taken care of. So there are all kinds of problems, and the healthcare provider for the jail, NAFCare, they said the guy who runs it said he described the environment which healthcare workers is not adequately safe and secure and cited healthcare staff resignations due to safety concerns. Yeah, people don't want to work at the jail because it's fucking dangerous. Um, and it got so bad that NAFCare had their own security force that escorts healthcare staff around during medical administration in the housing units. Um, they have to have their own security details, chat. That's how bad it is. The nurses and medical staff have their own fucking protection detail. And there's still not enough security escorts accompanying all of them. All the nurses and all the providers, but they have their own thing. These impacts, it impacts everybody. They said, after the medical staff responded to a homicide, in which doors were unlocked and multiple people were stabbed, the healthcare provider said, "Don't go up there anymore. And you only dispense medications and conduct sick call at the entrance." And you can escort people to the medical clinic, but if you have a mental health appointment, you must meet at the entrance to the pod now because they won't go in there. But, because they won't go in there, they can't observe, patients who are acting crazy in their cells. You can't have a confidential conversation. There's all kinds of problems. The medical providers' medical records rely on the jail's data, which is garbage. But the jail's data management system has failed multiple times, showing people that are incarcerated and have been released, and they can't do what they need to do. They try to go to one location in the jail and only to learn they are housed somewhere else. The power outages make this even worse. They can't do anything. They can't get anything done here, guys. So, Carlos saying jail should be a drug-free zone. Well, yes, for the most part, I agree. Yes. Bella's saying they also escort the medical staff so prisoners won't tell about abuse or neglect. Remember, this is their own. The medical people, the nurses, the nursing company has a separate private security group they had to hire. So these guys, their guards, the guards who are protecting the nurses, aren't even part of are part of the prison staff. So no, they won't report anything. They're separate. It's a separate group of guards. So the guards protecting the nurses are not even the guards involved in this. That's how fucked up it is. It's even worse than you think. So they're private guards. These things lead to severe injury and death. You're supposed to review somebody for suicidality within 24 hours of removing them for a suicide observation. One guy jumped off the top tier of his housing unit trying to commit suicide, and the mental health staff were blocked from doing an observation and evaluation because the CO was passing out food trays and wouldn't allow them into the unit. So they didn't complete it or watch him until 2 days later. They tried to meet with him 6 more times, but couldn't find him because his housing unit wasn't up to date in the system. They say he didn't receive any of his stuff. And at least for some reason, this medication was that medical staff didn't know where he was. He reported having a mental breakdown and later died in a murder. So, The jail was 1989, 35 years. 35 years. The jail's 35. It's old as Taylor Swift. 1989. 1989, chat. 1989. So it's just there's nothing good here. You know, this is all kinds of problems here. All kinds of problems with the medical staff, and they don't provide adequate treatment. Like, it just goes on and on and on and on and on, chat. People get sick. They don't take care of people. Like, people are left on their own. You know, as a result, like there's all kinds of problems. You know, they talk like this stuff here is really bad. Like, they met a guy who had cerebral palsy who couldn't obtain specialty footwear that allow him to walk around. As a result, he wears socks without shoes in the jail, which means he could risk and fall. They met somebody who had hearing aids who didn't get his hearing aids in September after somebody had recommended them. And they say, and then until we raise the issue with counsel, the man couldn't use the hearing aids because he couldn't charge the batteries. And they say he missed medication administration because he couldn't hear it being announced. Yeah. And Bella's saying, thanks, Bella. Saying in Alabama, the sheriff keeps all leftover jail funds. I saw you. I didn't get I started earlier, but yeah, it's not a surprise. There's an incentive to cut corners. Can this be fixed? I mean, it's not going to get fixed until people go to fucking prison, but that's the only way you're going to fix it, and that's not going to happen, sadly. So, the answer is really no, you can't. It's not going to get fixed. So, sorry. Just telling you the truth. I mean, you have to fix the entire county, but this is an issue countywide. It's a corruption issue. It's like rot or rust. Can't really get rid of it. You know, there's also language issues. You know, they spoke with a Spanish person who has serious medical issues related to prostate cancer. He doesn't receive interpretation services during his medical appointments, and the nurses don't speak Spanish. And they say as a result, he can't talk to them. And they say the medical staff explain they have access to a telephonic language interpretation service, but it requires using a landline, and the officers need to pull the patient out of the housing area to access it. You know, like they have to take care of people. J-Dub says, "Oh, I thought we could fix it." Well, you'd have to basically like take every politician in Atlanta and like shoot him into a ditch, and then say we're not doing this again, and then probably shoot the next group too. You basically would have to shoot it out of people. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done. They say though, they don't do anything right. They don't take care of people. There's grossly deficient responses to medical emergencies. You know, are they going to start CPR, applying bandages, using the AED, administering Narcan, placing people in recovery positions? You know, in multiple deaths, the first responders failed to provide first responder care. And they say, while that may not have resulted in a better outcome, the pattern of poor responses poses a risk of harm. You know, and they say, you know, the officers responded to a fatal stabbing, didn't provide medical care, was delayed 3.5 minutes while they waited for medical staff to arrive. They say 2 officers who responded to a homicide can be seen on surveillance video standing around while the victim was on the ground unresponsive. And they say the same month the guy was found with the bed bugs all over him. The first responding officer did not perform CPR, delaying chest compressions several minutes. And they say officers reported they don't routinely participate in man down or other medical drills with the healthcare staff. So they talk about one guy was brought into the medical unit on a stretcher for complaints of severe constipation. Could have like a perforated bowel or something, or a major bowel obstruction. Although he was unable to stand, he was left alone in a cell, and after 10 minutes, they checked on him. When they returned 20 minutes later, he was on the floor outside the cell, mostly not moving. Another 4 to 5 minutes passed, lying motionless before the healthcare providers took his vitals. Like, they all suck. They all suck, chat. Did Sean eat his hair? No, I did not eat my hair. I don't get it. I don't get it, chat. Yeah, I know you guys didn't like this, man, but this is the real world, chat. You guys have to suffer. You have to see this shit. You have to know these things are out there. You should know these things are out there. You should know about it. You should be able to say, this is wrong. I don't like it. So this is fucked up. Deanna is saying, is there any way the feds could come in and clean this up? You literally would have to like get rid of, like, you'd have to start going after all these COs. Like when they did all these reports, every CO that did all this shit and violated civil rights, indict and send to prison. Send the sheriff to prison. Like, everybody has to go to prison. Like I said, either they all go to prison or you line them all up in a ditch and you shoot them all in the back of the head. That's the only way you're going to fix this. And neither of those are going to happen. So that's the thing here. I mean, there's multiple federal civil rights violations these COs have done, but nothing will happen. There's lack of adequate nursing. Where people need assistance going to the bathroom, bathing, or eating. They found somebody who was on the floor wearing only a diaper. And they said he's partially paralyzed from a stroke, and they give him a walker every day for an hour exercise. They didn't care that he was on the floor and didn't attempt to help him. He was the walker. This man required constant help with the mobility, with the jail was not providing him and didn't have the staffing to provide. They said a 75-year-old partially paralyzed person, couldn't get out of his bed, could not get in a wheelchair, was bowel incontinent, and had bed sores. This person waited hours, even days, for help to change his diaper. He reported that staff bathed him in his bed every few months. They observed him in a small, cramped cell with no television or source of stimulation. He told us before getting a cellmate, he was alone in his cell for 8 months and lost track of reality and family ties. In 2024, he fell from his bed and fractured his hip. When you break your hip and you're old, you're going to die. That's generally what happens. Your health rapidly declines. They say there's a risk his weakened state and lack of appropriate care, he'll continue to decline. Will have worsening malnutrition, and then eventually he'll contract an infection. Yeah. A 65-year-old guy died there. This man was described on admission as disheveled and having disorganized thoughts, and was later prescribed him dementia medications. The mental health examination noted his boat was covered with toilet paper and turds and soiled clothing, and the floor of his cell was wet. Another encounter that month noted he was dirty, his hands were soiled with turds, and his feces were spread on the wall of his cell and on his bed and his sheets. The psychiatrist observed him drinking from his cell. When the psychiatrist tried to open the cell, they found boxes of uneaten food trays. He wasn't eating. They reported he had developed infections on his legs from picking at skin ulcers with fingernails that had fecal matter on him. Everything was soaked in urine and he had no clothes on. Days later, he was found unresponsive and described as foul smelling and dirty. And he was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The medical examiner attributed his death to heart disease. I'm sure that was it. He needed skilled nursing and memory care with support of his activities of daily living. He didn't receive that, and it increased his pain and the risk of infections. Um, Many of the medical units, they don't have grab bars if you have mobility issues, transfer between beds. There were steel frame beds that didn't meet their needs. There's people with heart and lung problems that require elevation. People who have skin ulcers, they need special mattresses. People who are fall risk should not be sleeping on the floor because they could fall getting up from their beds or down on the floor. There's all kinds of problems here. They just keep doing this and not caring for people. I mean, just think about how fucked up this is. There's an inadequate emergency system for high needs patients. There are emergency call buttons, but they're not reliable. Women reported if they need medical attention overnight, they bang on their cell doors to alert two women who are housed in a cell with a broken lock. It's then up to the women in that cell to leave their cell and go to the outer door to bang on another door and get attention. The two women who are being treated for active seizures express their fear they're not going to get care one night if they have a seizure. The call buttons alert to a security post that is unstaffed overnight when it is most needed. I mean, this is just straight fucked up, you guys. It's just straight fucked up. It's just the mental health issues are really bad. They don't really do any reviews. There's no oversight. They talk about the restrictive housing and discipline. They don't really do anything right. They don't take care of people. They don't do anything at all to take care of anybody here. So they talk about incidents of people trying to commit suicide in the zone in segregation. So somebody had borderline personality disorder and major depressive disorder, was found in his restrictive housing shell with a sheet wrapped around his neck. Well, obviously, clearly what he was going to do. He was put on suicide watch for 1 day after this attempt, then returned to the restrictive housing. The person described struggling being behind the door and told the mental health people, "I can't go in the hole." And they said records reflect that medical and staff discussed moving him out of restrictive housing within 2 to 14 days. Okay, yeah, they can't move him right away. Instead, he was there for 2 months. They have another person who had a major depressive disorder, PTSD. They had been in restrictive housing for 41 days, attempted suicide by hanging. He suffered respiratory failure, was hospitalized for a week. They say after they cut him down and while they're searching for an AED to revive him, they were alerted to another person hanging from a light fixture in his cell at the same time in the same zone. They found somebody who had been in the hole for 50 days attempting suicide again. Days later, this person was back in the hole and started a fire in his cell. He said he started the fire because he wanted help. He reported he had cut his wrist, was bleeding, and had swallowed 2 zippers. Ugh, that'll tear you apart. Ugh. That'll tear you apart. So, it's bad. And now I get it's, they should be, if you're going to put people in solitary, you should be observing them. They say self-harm is common in the restrictive housing, and talking about the South Annex. They talk about in the first incident, some guy had multiple incidents. The first time he was standing on a sink in his cell with a rope around his neck. 2 weeks later, he was in medical care for smacking his head. And he said that being in the cell for 24 hours was a trigger for him, and he would bang his head wide open if he was kept there. And the third time, he was 74 days in a 90-day disciplinary restriction sanction. So, guys, this is just not, it's not good. They just keep doing it. I mean, and he says, as long as I'm here, I'm going to try to kill myself. And they say that he had been in disciplinary restriction 52 days on multiple consecutive sanctions, totaling over 6 months. Like they're just, you're kind of there. Conditions in the South Annex are intentionally punitive. Writing supplies are not allowed. Medical request forms are not available. Personal property is limited, and books are restricted, including religious texts, which is kind of a big no-no. You can't restrict religious text usually. When they interviewed a guy, he said it's nothing to do. We just be locked in the cage. And somebody says that room is doing it to me, which, given the way they're doing shit at the jail, it sounds like they're 100% fucking with people. Uh-oh, what happened? Why are we deleting comments? Uh-oh, the 2.0 delete a comment. Well, you guys, she is a Fed. You got to be careful. You got to be careful, guys. So they say spotlight children in restrictive housing. We're going to highlight this. It's like, I can't imagine that was good. When I read this was rough. So, in 5 of these kids were complaining they weren't getting out of their cells. They found out these kids are confined to their cells more than 22 hours a day. Still, they violate groups down for violating rules. It's bad, guys. It's bad. So this is an awful fucking place. It's an awful place. They also point, and guys, these are 11, like this right here. This is critical. We're going to cite this because it's 11th Circuit case. Before a pretrial detainee, meaning before your trial, before you've been convicted, is punished for violating a rule, there must be a due process hearing to determine what rule he violated. And you have the right to challenge things. You have the right to call witnesses, and present evidence. Due process further requires that detainees receive a written statement of reasons for any action taken. And there are these are Supreme Court cases, 11th Circuit cases, and that's not being provided. These guys are just basically, the jail routinely disciplines people without providing a hearing. You don't have a ability there. So 977 people still watching. Wow, you guys are into this. It's also perceived as inconvenient and unsafe for a disciplinary officer to go into a housing unit to meet with people and provide them hearings. Well, gee, too fucking bad. You work at the fucking jail. I'm the disciplinary officer for a jail. Well, do you ever have to deal with the inmates? Well, no, that's too dangerous. Then why are you working at the fucking jail? Why are you working at the jail there? The guy with the hearing aid. Boo. Boo. Boo this man. Oh. They say for mid-level violations, the jail has a practice of issuing time served sanctions without providing hearings. So they say after someone has been locked down awaiting resolution of a disciplinary charge for 14 days, or as we found, in some cases, several weeks or even months, disciplinary officers may issue a punishment of time served without providing an opportunity to be heard. But they had a case where the guy threw turds. Okay, the officer didn't rule for 106 days, citing hearing officer overworked to excuse the delay, and then found the person guilty of assaulting staff and issued a time-served sanction. By that point, he had served 38 days of restrictive housing without a hearing. That's Yeah. But they point out in 2024, there were 135 disciplinary reports in 1 month alone. So, yeah, there's a lot of work there. Somebody's received 160-day sanction, 180-day sanctions. They often write combative on a form to say why they didn't have a hearing. Obviously, that's going to be bullshit. One time they said the whole pod was combative. Well, that's not his fault. And one time they found the person guilty of exiting their cell unauthorized at 28 days of, going in seg. This is just nonsense. One sample, they don't provide reasons. The disciplinary officer issued a sanction 90% of the time, and none of them had reasons explaining why they did it. The officer simply circled the charge and wrote G above it to indicate guilt. So they don't say what happened. Hearing officer overworked, guilty, and he was combative. 60 days, you go to the mental health unit. And that's the thing. Like, all these people should be going to fucking jail. But none of them will. None of these guards are going to jail. Like, the one guy got 4 years, but notice it didn't stop anybody. Because the odds are you're not going to get in trouble. You can beat and treat the inmates like shit. Because they know nothing's going to happen to them. So, there's a reason why this continues at this point. So, and then educating children with disabilities. Well, yeah, everybody, juveniles should be protected. And all the problems here, guys, like all the problems, you're like, wow, they shouldn't do that. And that's pretty much what they have to do. Clean the place. Like actually be corrections officers and get involved and protect people. Like if someone tells you they're being raped, actually report on it. They just do this again and again and again. And J-Rock says, I visited clients there for 2005 to 2013 or so. It was horrible then, and it's just gotten worse. Yeah. One of the things, fix the locks. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. So they bring up, like, there's all kinds of things they have to do here. Deliberate indifference to the risk of harms. And, violating the constitutional and statutory rights of the inmates. And they say that within 49 days of this letter, the Attorney General may initiate a lawsuit, which really isn't going to do a whole lot. The Attorney General may also move to intervene in related private suits after 15 days. And this is a public document. And that's it. So, I mean, yeah, guys, like, it's not good there. Like, yes, thank God Young Thug and the gang were there. Because now you learned about it. But it's been rough. It's rough, chat. It's rough. Well, it makes my hair look like it's kind of like glowing. Maybe I'm a glowy now, chat. Frank says, see ya, Sean, gotta go jerk off. Yeah, after learning about all that and the cockroaches, is that your jam? Oh, no, chat. Oh, no, that's not good. That's not good. Oh, hold on here. Whoop. There we go. All right. I stuck my head in a bag of chalk. Is it jail gay dorms? No. Was Young Thug in the gay dorms? No. Jeez, stop. All right, going back to some of these comments here. Jim says, Sean is great. Do you have any evidence to back that up? I mean, I agree. Show your proof, show receipts. Miss Tay is a new member. Thank you, Miss Tay, for your support. I appreciate it. And then Jefferson Post, who's been a member for 4 months, says, will the DOJ make Georgia howl? Probably not. Probably not. Not like we're hoping. Not like we're hoping. All right. Hold on. Okay, so we'll get to the. Hold on. Yelp. All right. So apparently, the Fulton County Jail has Yelp reviews. Oh no. It's not working right. Fulton County Jail. No. Let's see here. Okay. So we'll get to these in a second, chat. We'll get to those in a minute here. J-Dub says people shouldn't be committing so many crimes. Well, that, like I said, it's not always their fault when they get put in jail. I mean, it's not like the cops have never illegally arrested or wrongfully arrested someone. I'm just saying. What the? Why is this camera? Why is it moving on its own? Why is it moving on its own, Chad? I don't get it. This is weird. It's weird. I don't know. It does its thing. I don't know. It's Jeff. Jeff, are you doing this? Well, there's like other things. There'd be so many other funny things you could do, but we'll take it. Daily Donkey Salt Dab says, all misdemeanor criminals should be released. No way they all felons. No, there's a lot of felons in there too. So there are a lot of felons. Debbie Drunk says it would be nice if you would apologize to Nick Rekieta for talking about his plea deal. I don't know why I had to apologize for that, but okay. Jefferson Post says nothing stops like anyone from being sent to jail. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Laventry Beria, yes. The head of the NKVD and the KGB, but also just in general, police in America have no problem throwing innocent people in jail. But yeah, it's very correct. The Chugi Show says there was supposed to be a pup cam. I don't know when I didn't say there's going to be a pup cam. But now that I have an extra camera now, yes, we can do a Clyde cam. Well, actually, hold on. You have to do a pup cam. I don't know. I think they want, so yeah. Give the people what they want. They want it. Internet person says, hi, Sean. I like your streams. I think ultimately jails and prisons must move away from communal models and environments. Too many violent people. It's a recipe for constant conflict. Yes, but people, we need social interaction. If you just seg everybody, like everybody's going to lose their fucking mind. So it can be done in ways that protects people. Many jails have figured it out. But you have the right to interact with people. Like segregating everybody is not a good answer either. Maybe it's the idea we shouldn't jail as many people as we do. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for the $10. Thank you for the super chat. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure says, hey, Sean. You say this like Darth Sidious. Have you ever heard about the Baldo curse? They say when you wear it, you have the power to wish people $1 million. But you can't wish $1 million for yourself. The price of power. Yes, it's very much a monkey's paw type of situation there. Yes, Lola says they had drones flying in. Yes, they did. And Treviat says, when do jails need functioning doors? Yes. And then haha lol says old Andy Dufresne didn't do nothing. And Sneedworld says because they spend all their time shanking one another. Benjamin Lewis says all these inmates are presumed innocent. Yes, they are. And Garrett says, my people must tunnel. It's like, not your people, not your people. This sounds barbaric like Escape from New York. 100% it does. It's fucking crazy. And Fair Frozen 55 says, I've heard stories of human refuse being used to make a shank. When it gets cold enough, it'll hold the point. It'll also give you a terrible sepsis. Yeah, you can make a knife out of turds. Anything. Anything's a dildo if you're brave enough. Anything's a knife if you're They should almost say anything's a knife if you're angry enough. A name of some sort says, going back, who the hell gets high before meeting their attorney? He didn't know I told him I was going to probably come, like, I had extra time, so I made an extra stop to see him. So, Matt says, when you owe a guy money, you owe the guy up the chain money, and they can't show weakness. That's true. So you're going to get booked if you can't, and they'll keep doing it. Yes, you know the reason why these inmates get raped? They're wearing provocative jumpsuits. Nisa Natick says, what realistically happens if Georgia ignores the PREA? I mean, like, nothing really. It's not like anybody goes to prison over that themselves, what should happen, but it won't. Jefferson Post says, our class actions or 1983 suits an option here. Yeah, but the problem is there's so few records. Like, there's no way of even really probably having successful claims at this point. Like, they literally have done so bad at this. Like, the report would be helpful, but I don't even know if this would be enough to help you get a to get that. Like, I don't know if that would help. Your camera is following you like Andrews does. Yeah, it's got all these things like AI tracking on it and stuff. It's just weird getting used to it. Literally, like, I had this plugged in like an hour before we started. Isaac says, boy, I can't wait for the Trump admin to curb the use of consent decrees between the DOJ and police departments again, as he did during his first term. And I think that's true, but there's times where, like, this jail probably does need it, because this ain't good, man. This ain't good. You know, this ain't hell, but it's close. This ain't good what they're doing. This ain't good. Let me see if I can fix it. Oh, there we go. That fixed the color just a hair. Let me see. Does this fix it too a little bit? Yeah, there we go. Oh, found some color stuff. Saturation. Oh, no, I'm orange, chat. I'm like Trump. He got me. Oh, there you go, chat. There's the Laney cam and the Clyde cam. So, sharpness, sharp. Well, my color saturation, we need to turn that down. There you go. Oh, there's Clyde. Oh, here comes Laney. See, chat, there you go. You got the doggos. And Bella says, in Alabama, any budget left over at the end of the year, sheriffs get to keep of it. Some North Alabama County Jail sheriffs have beach houses. Prisoners starve and get 2 pads a day for their period. Oof. That's rough. The Phil Tayo Toys says, free Clyde. Well, thank you. Well, he's right there. Free Clyde with the purchase of a Clyde of equal or similar value. Meggles is a new member. Thank you, Meggles. I appreciate it. And then Meggles for $5 Australian dues. Says, thank you, Sean, for such an uplifting and Christmas spirit kind of live stream. Ho, ho, ho. Well, you know what? I could have... Christmas Eve, we did a Christmas thing, and now we're a couple days after Christmas, so it's back to work, Chad. It's back to work. Back to work. Clyde's like, nope, no, and yeah, well, here's Lainey. She's all... She's just like right up there in the face. Why is Clyde so shy and skittish? He used to come on camera. I don't know. Dogs go through phases. I don't know, Kay. Dogs go through phases. It's just how they are. I mean, otherwise, he's super cool around us. It's just I think I don't know if he likes being on camera or if he knows he's on camera because I'll be sitting here like after this is over, I'll be like watching something or playing a game and he'll come up and like put his paws up on me like, pick me up, fat man, pick me up. So, yes, is this the most you guys see in Lainey? Yes, pretty much. And now she's sitting on Clyde, which is kind of funny. Clyde hurt his leg. I think that caused a bit of trauma. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. He knows when you're streaming. He might. So, Clyde doesn't like working for free anymore. Well, yeah, well, he probably thinks I'm psychotic talking to myself. Well, oh, shit. So here we go. Lainey was the big part of the stream 2.0 started for you. Lainey was a big part of the stream 2.0 started for me. Not sure what you mean. Is Lainey Clyde's Bonnie? Lainey was actually here before we got Clyde. We had Lainey, and she was having trouble becoming a dog. So we were like, yeah, we need to get her. We need a dog to help her, like a little dog helping her become a little dog. Also, Baxter, our big dog. If you guys go on the locals, you could see way back at the beginning where we were kind of like, there were 2 original studio doggos. Before the office was kind of filled up, right where Trump is sitting, there was 2 dog beds, and we had Molly and Baxter. If you guys go back through, they were the originals. They were the OGs here, and they're no longer with us. And Baxter was declining in health a lot, and Baxter was Lainey's protector. And we realized that wasn't going to last forever, so we ended up, we wanted to get her another friend while we had the time, and yeah. Oh. So these are the 2 original doggos we had. Baxter and Molly. Molly was a Papillon, and Baxter was like German Shepherd and like pit bull of some sort. Are our dogs here on H1BV? Says no. So those are the 2 original ones, and Molly passed away a long time ago, and then Baxter passed away about a couple months after we got Molly or Lainey, and we had gotten Clyde. Clyde got the experience. So we had 3 dogs for a little while. So yeah, 07's in the chat. Yep, they were the originals. Chat. So I remember seeing Baxter somewhere. You probably saw him because he come like snoot up on screen because he was a fucking horse. He was a huge freaking dog. So you probably do remember seeing him. You probably also remember him barking routinely because that was his thing. So were they rehoused in Vermont? No, they went to the farm and we had to take him to the vets. Although Baxter, when he passed away, we did the in-home euthanasia. He was in really, really bad shape. He had, by the end, he had cancer really bad. His hip had gone out. He was in really rough shape. So we did the at-home euthanasia, which I will tell you is about the same price. And even if it was like only $100 more, it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it because he got to sit where he was comfortable. It wasn't at the vet's office. So like we didn't you have to take your dog and roust them out and get them where they're all think about it. Like if your dog is sitting there and your dog knows going to the vet, so they're like nervous and they're worried, and you take them into a vet's office and they might be on a blanket right then and there, but they're on the whole hard, cold floor. Or if you got them up on the table, it's not like, Baxter, he was on his bed. We had he got a frost, he got to eat he got to have a nice, Wendy, he had a junior bacon cheeseburger. He had fries. We let him eat the Frosty, all that fun stuff at the end. It sucks still, but it's so much better. It's about as good as it gets for a shitty thing. Like it's I don't know if we mentioned. I think we mentioned at the time, but like listening, like Baxter as like we gave him the Frosty and he's licking away at it, shoving his snoot in the cup, while the vet's pricking him and poking him, getting him ready for the drugs, so he didn't notice it. And as she starts putting him in, you can hear him like no, no, no. And he starts going and it starts slowing down. And after a while, we take it out and you wipe him off. And he's asleep and you can hear him just snoring and snoring and snoring. And then he quits snoring. And Maddie says there's no good in it. You know what, though? There is good in it. It's nice where you do it and it's a safe, quiet place. It's where they feel safe. I think that's good. Also, for these two guys, Laney and Clyde, they were here for it. It wasn't just like everybody's sad Baxter goes out the door one day and never came back. Because dogs know. Dogs know when shit's going down. Like, they know when their friends are hurt. I mean, if you ever watch the videos of, like, when dogs have died or other animals have died, they try to take care of them. Or, like, I saw this one video. A dog had gotten run over and hit by a car. It was somewhere like in Europe. And the other dog that was his friend had like drug him off the road to protect him and was just sitting there with the body. Like, dogs like that. They like to, yeah. They were there for it. They were, they kind of sat there, kind of out on the ground next to him and they knew. But you know what? I think it was good for them too. So. It's sad, but you know what? That's how it is. Just telling you guys, that's how it is. So, like I said, it's as good as it can get. So, anyways, moving back onto the prison stories. Circle of life. Yeah. No, we're not doing that. Anyway, the Fulton County Jail does have Yelp reviews. These are fucking hilarious. So here we go. So here are the reviews. These are great. It says, Amisha says, don't compare the jail to the hotel. We never know where we may have to go. I have a legal matter that brought me here. Not my idea of grand. However, but many much worse places to be. The most important impressive factor is that I had a personal item of A+ priority and did not get returned to me promptly. This is like, I think this person doesn't understand what they were writing about because it sounds like it was a different place. The vending machines were modern. They did have a state-of-the-art inmate system. I had to use the restroom and it was clean with locks on the restroom to limit any more forms of drama. And who the heck makes a date in the county jail? So why would I even think to take a peek at this facility? However, the people in the jail were cool as heck. Jail should give you every reason to provoke no return. P.S. I was there as a potential criminal, elated about freedom of speech. But that's somebody saying I spent 2 days in a cell. There were no food or water because the guard said I looked at him wrong. The Fulton County needs federal and state financial help to improve their facilities. But a lot of 1-star reviews. This is all pretty interesting. This guy, though, he's got a very interesting thing. He's like, my bad. Last one, I just met the most wonderful woman in jail. Like if you're already married. I hope she wasn't playing me because I'll send her to federal prison to show her I like her. I wanted to kiss her to take care of her. It's so fucking weird. This is so fucking hilarious. Some of these. They are, this guy's saying the place is horrible. Even though you're in jail, people are still human. Days in a holding cell, sleeping on the floor. No water, no toilet paper, no blankets. sleeping on the cement floor. The girl next to me waited and had her period and waited 4 hours for help. Some of the female guards are wrapped around inmate fingers and do whatever they want. And that's a very common problem. That's the reason why those guys up in New York State escaped from prison, because they took advantage of the female staff. They treat the women there badly, really inhumane. 10 of us at a holding cell bunched up. The sink in the cell didn't work. I was actually at the Board of Elections next door, but accidentally hit this. But I can imagine it cannot be any worse than staying at a Comfort Inn. Oh, I can imagine it's 100 times worse. So this guy, he says, what do I say other than I work for the county? Here to change a few things within the network in terms of service. I've worked for companies before, but this is the first time I've ever enjoyed what I do without the stress. Of course, my perception is different than the one who is stuck in there. Like, well, no shit. Neil's got the best one, though, chat. Neil's got the best one. Oh, I'm sorry, chat. I didn't share the screen. Sorry. Sorry, chat. Also, sharing the screen here. Oh, all right. So, hold on, chat. Neil's got the best one, though. The toilets at the Comfort Inn actually work. Neil's got a great one. He's like, what can I say? The sex is great. Would have classified myself as a straight man before I went in there. After a week, wow, I was having sex 5 times a day. Sounds like the reviews for hedonism. Some of the guys in there are so well hung with only shower gel as lube. My hole was painful at first, but after you take a few 10-inch dudes, you become used to it and use all the cum as lube for the next person. Can't wait to go back again. Let's hope it has more hung guys to take turns on my hole. Also, Madeline says, this is the ultimate know before you go experience. No, honey, I did not shank anyone and end up in county jail, but let's just say I went on a field trip today, and here's some things you need to know before you go. If you're going to the Fulton County Jail on Rice Street from the suburbs, you will want to drive. We took Marta down because we were handling business at the courthouse, and somehow it was assumed the jail was connected. No, the jail is miles away. We held a taxi to get to the jail. We're met with surprise when we get there. Here's what you need to know. It's located in an area isolated away from any business, so you can't just walk down the street for refreshments or anything. If you happen to get parched, you get parched at all. You want out? Oh, okay. Well, oh, no, hold on. There. You're good. There, you're out. Nick's not willing to plea after reading that. Yes. So you stay in an isolated area, so you can't get refreshments. You're not allowed to enter the building if you're wearing sandals or carrying a bag. You're not allowed to take in a cell phone. You cannot wear a short skirt or mini dress. That's a rule in all jails. You can't wear tank tops, tube tops. You got to wear, like, can't be showing cleavage. There are a lot of rules on that stuff. Since my daughter and I were wearing sandals, we were not able to go inside. However, my daughter really needed to go because she was an interpreter. So in order to go, she had to trade shoes with her father. Yes, she gave my husband her black sandals with the cute little flowers, while she gave her his size 12 boats. After adjusting her dress, she was permitted to enter. She said, Daddy and I waited outside bewildered. We obviously didn't handle this morning's plans, but tagged along for moral support, so this is where we ended up. Anyway, the officers who handed the checks were helpful. She says, as you're facing the building, there's a small area off to the left. It is for smoking, so not an option. And they say they went over to the general area because it's shaded and they found a concrete structure to sit. So this is these are some of the signs that are up there. So you can see Here's the dress codes. So here's the things. You can't have any see-through garments, no tight-fitting leggings, spandex, yoga pants, clothing that have holes or rips, whether man-made or designer-made, skirts above the knee, mini skirts, shorts, dresses, or sagging pants, tank tops, sleeveless shirts, or visible white undergarment t-shirts. Head coverings such as scarves, bandanas, hats, ball caps, etc. Sleepwear such as pajama pants, gowns, house shoes, etc. No sunglasses or shades, no handbags or purses. No clothing or garments with illegal, offensive, or obscene graphics. Shoes that are turned to be slip hazards like flip-flops or without back straps. No outerwear such as jackets, sweaters, coats, hoodies. They must be removed before entering the jail. Well, I guess it's good it's not that fucking cold down there, because up here that'd be dangerous. Undergarments are required, but should not be seen. Well, then how do you know if they're required if you can't see them? So there's where they hung out at the jail. The guy's wearing his daughter's flip-flops. So that's how she did this. And they said that as they were waiting for somebody to help them, somebody gave them a ride to the train station, which they took because it was a hot day and they had no idea where they were. So her guardian angel, Tasha, helped her. But anyways, yeah, those are some of the there. But Danielle's got the best. I had an adult sleepover here once, and let's say I'm not impressed. I mean, what kind of place doesn't give you underwear? The food is horrible. No vegan options at all. Bologna with pepper jack cheese and a juice that has no straw. No privacy when you use the bathroom. And let's not even get into the fact there's one square of tissue. You're cramped in a small cell with 10 to 12 other people, and there are roaches. This place is shut down. I give it 1 star because I'm not going back. Yeah. And then somebody else says it's got terrible customer service. It should be shut down. So, yeah, this guy. So there you go. But Chad, if you do need something, Lisa says, well, you can't rate a jail, but she can rate a DUI school. She says, I give 5 stars, 5 stars, chat, to one ace DUI school in Marietta. If you have to go, suggest that school. Great people, chat. Oh, yeah, they get pepper jack cheese. It's like, woo, fancy. Like Lottie fucking da. Like, who the fuck are you guys with that? Come on now. Like, how the hell do you guys have fucking... How the hell are you guys getting that? That's just... That is very confusing to me. A juice with no straw, the audacity, yeah. So, how do I review a jail? Got me, yeah. Yeah, so the forced adult sleepover. The Fulton County response, yes, somebody on there is just... Their job is to sit there and just go, that's not true! That's not true! It's not true, chat! Yes, America's a land of many cheeses. That's right, Noel. You're coming back to the land of many cheeses. The best cheeses. Yeah, that wasn't pepper jack. Those were roaches hiding in the cheese. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, chat. Oh, boy. What can I say, chat? What can I say? Jamal says, you heard Nate. That's right, Noel. That's right. Oh. All right. Well, I think we're all caught up, chat. Oh, actually, we got a couple more. Patty F says, Lainey is a cutie. Well, thank you, Patty. Thank you for being here for 4 months. Appreciate it. Is it still moving? Okay, good. Ed says, my dog understood that when I was talking to my computer that he could get treats easily from me. They understand what's going on. That's a good looking color on you. You look Latin. I know if I get a nice tan, I can look Latin, or my hair was black, I could be like, people are like, are you Mediterranean? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. Nolan's streaming on Tuesday. Woohoo. How is Nolan going to survive in America without his cheeses? I don't know. He'll make do. The farm's always, he always figures out a way to survive. Nolan's streaming on Tuesday. Good. Was he off this week? Like this past week? I just didn't know. Did he take Christmas week off? So, Serbia doesn't even comply with the EU's cheese laws. Yes. You look like a Serb going on a cruise. Yeah. As a woman, that hair color would cost me a fucking fortune, Sean. Be grateful. No, I understand. I'm happy with it. Oh, he's been off for the whole month? I really hadn't checked. Is it Jim streaming this week? I don't know. It's Saturday, so probably not. Maybe you will. Is there going to be another model stream soon? Yes. Because at this point, we could show now we have... Let me see if this will work, right? So from there, we have... Oh, wow, that gets all ingly. But yeah, we've been working on painting up the hull, so it's looking good. Jim is streaming Tuesday. For New Year's. Hell yeah. Well, then we'll be over on Locals streaming that. So, oh God, I forget this thing has a separate bar here. Okay. So, no, I want you to go up. I don't like it when it's down that far. I hate it where it feels like I'm getting crushed. I hate that. It's annoying as hell. I try to save it as a preset, and then it doesn't fucking do it. It's annoying. Let me see if this will fix it. No. Why do you not do what I want? Fucking computer. What the hell camera is this? It's called, whatever. Well, anyway, yeah, we have been working on this thingy, so it should be looking pretty good going forward. Call the camera child, yes. Yes, I don't like you guys seeing me as a big fat sack of shit. Yes, 100% correct. Call the camera child. You listen to me, child. Oh. Can I turn the AI off? I thought it was off. That's the problem with this thing. It's like, it doesn't... AI tracking. Yeah, it should have been off. So I don't know why it's like it won't save. It won't, like, you save presets. Okay, and then it doesn't save them for you. It's like, it's frustrating about that. Yeah, so we'll try this again. Yeah, see, it does the same thing again. It's annoying. It's frustrating. So, new focus. I don't know what the deal is. We'll figure it out at some point. So, all right, chat. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for everybody being here. I know this was a long one. I know this was kind of sad already with the jail, but hey, man, you guys need to see it. Get the word out there. Know, like, what goes on in your jails, because remember, like, your politics is local, but know how they're treating the people in your jails and prisons. And then, going forward, yeah, just keep on top of it. And we're going to do a model stream. We'll try it tonight. We'll try a little bit of model stuff with this. We'll see how it goes. So, I need to switch out shirts so I don't get paint on this, because it'll be sad. Can we get a local stream? Well, today's Saturday, so we'll do one tomorrow. How about that? Make the new camera a Clyde cam. Well, I got to have Clyde want to stay in here, but I don't know why it's not staying in here anymore. Sticks about his experience at the jail. Oh, can we get the Illinois oral arguments? Yes, because there's an oral arguments for a case in Illinois, chat. About a bunch of the gun stuff, and it's fucking hilarious because they tear apart the state's attorney on that. So, can I paint the Indian H-1B stuff? No. So, guys, give me a minute here, and we'll start up the toys, or we'll do the model stream in a second here. So, remember, until next time, chat. Just because you did it, do not go to the Fulton County. Do not commit. Just because you did it does not mean you want to serve your time in Fulton County. Sounds really bad. Sounds really bad, chat. So don't go there. Don't go there. In the meantime, chat, I will see you guys and take care, everybody. See you guys in a couple minutes.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes, it was. He